The story begins with the death of a significant figure, Rikudo Kisaburo. He was known as the last great man to support the Showa era. At his funeral, the question on everyone's mind is who will take over the gigantic Rikudo group. While the inheritance is expected to go to his 3 biological children, there are whispers of a rumor. The news spreads quickly. While waiting for a train, a person reads a newspaper confirming the shocking rumor. Rikudo Kisaburo had an illegitimate child. The public reacts with a mix of disbelief and amusement. Some dismiss it as a baseless rumor, typical gossip that always surrounds the powerful, while others read about it in magazines. As people wait for the train, the gossip continues. They fantasize about being the illegitimate child and inheriting a fortune of 10 or even 100 billion, though they admit even a job at the corporation would be nice. The train finally arrives. On the crowded train, 2 salarymen lament their fate. One complains about heading to another shitty village for business, steeling himself to just survive the day. Sitting amongst the passengers is a delinquent with a pompadour, brazenly smoking on the packed train. His arrogant demeanor sets him apart from the crowd. The delinquent's eyes narrow. He overheard the salaryman's derogatory comment, and he takes offense, questioning if he just called his hometown a disgusting fucking shithole. The atmosphere tenses as the delinquent and his gang slowly rise, menacingly surrounding the 2 terrified salarymen. One of them is even holding a baseball bat. Panic sets in. The salarymen realize this is an express train and try to make a run for it as the doors close, but it's too late. They're trapped. Trapped, the salarymen can only watch as the delinquent leader smirks. He taunts them, stating that they have nowhere to run and are now stuck on a train full of hooligans. The delinquent leader then turns his attention to an elderly man, mockingly offering him a seat. However, the old man stands his ground and politely refuses the offer, stating his legs are still solid. Not satisfied, the delinquent escalates his bullying. He accuses the old man of mooching off his pension and then snatches a toy from a nearby baby, causing it to burst into tears. The mother pleads with him to stop, but the delinquent only gets more sadistic, threatening to burn the plush monkey if she doesn't quiet her crying child. The other passengers are frozen in fear. He holds the lit cigarette like a weapon, announcing his target is the head. He begins a countdown. The cigarette teepadong has been loaded, firing in 5, 4, 3. Just as he's about to act, a mysterious figure in a cat mascot costume appears behind him. The delinquent, lost in his own cruelty, continues his countdown, oblivious. Suddenly, the cat mascot grabs the delinquent's head and brutally smashes it against the train's metal pole, putting a swift and violent end to his harassment. One of the other thugs, enraged, charges at the mascot with a baseball bat, ready to retaliate for his leader. As the bat connects, the mascot's head is knocked off, revealing a young man underneath. He calmly withstands the blow, letting out a relaxed sigh as if it were nothing. The delinquents stare in horror. They recognize the shirtless, muscular man as Aguri Shiro, a notoriously dangerous individual. Shiro, unfazed, simply complains about the heat and asks them to stop smoking. The tables have turned completely. The formerly arrogant delinquent leader, now bruised and terrified, tries to curry favor with Shiro, but Shiro responds with a menacing glare, asking if he's being messed with. Without another word, Shiro delivers a devastating punch straight to the delinquent's face. As the delinquent lies bleeding on the floor, Shiro taunts him, asking if he fancies himself a bad boy and pointing out that his crew will be waiting for him when he gets off the train. Shiro continues his brutal assault, kicking the seated delinquent while lecturing him. He tells the man that letting his guard down proves he's nothing more than a fake tough guy, just a little brat. Just then, one of the salarymen who was originally harassed finds his courage and pleads for Shiro to stop. Shiro turns his attention to the man, a chilling smile playing on his lips as he asks, "You dare to calm me down? Since I'm punishing the bad guy, does that make me an ally of justice to you?" Shiro doesn't hesitate. He answers the man's question with a swift punch to the face. Shiro stands over the chaos he created, a defiant look on his face. He embraces his nature, declaring, "Too bad. I'm just a bad guy myself." The scene shifts to a local hero and character show. A crowd of children waits eagerly, but an announcement is made that the apathetic cat's laughing riot show has been delayed. Backstage, Shiro, dressed in the apathetic cat costume, is getting an earful from his furious director for being late. Shiro complains that he was given the wrong location and that riding the train in costume was embarrassing. The director ignores his excuses and fires him on the spot. Shiro sarcastically suggests changing the program to Puss in Boots, but the director insists the apathetic cat of justice must be pure white. Having had enough, Shiro, still in his cat costume, snaps and begins to attack his now former boss. The other costumed performers watch in shock as the part-timer goes on a rampage. The other actors, dressed as Power Ranger-style heroes, decide to intervene and save their director. Shiro, as the apathetic cat, taunts them, sarcastically welcoming the heroes of justice to the fight. With the cat head now off, Shiro makes quick work of the costumed actors, looking utterly bored as he dismantles the heroes one by one. Shiro laments how boring it is to fight ordinary people. He yearns for a true challenge, wishing a terribly bad guy on the level of God would appear so he could finally enjoy demolishing someone. The children in the audience, completely unaware of the real violence, cheer wildly, thinking the hero show has finally started. They chant for the half-cat to be beaten up, while Shiro stands amidst the defeated actors, still pondering if a real challenge will ever appear. Later that night, Shiro walks down the street carrying the mascot head. He reflects on being let go by the police and wishes he had parents to sign for his release. He looks down at the cat head, a remnant of his chaotic day, and wonders to himself why he even bothered taking it with him. His senses suddenly flare. Shiro instinctively dodges as a bottle flies past his head, shattering against the brick wall behind him. Two thugs on a scooter speed away, yelling that they'll kill a Guri someday. Shiro calmly analyzes the attack, noting they used weak carbonic acid instead of something deadly like sulfuric acid, mocking their amateur attempt. Shiro sits down for a meal at a diner, placing the cat head on the stool next to him. On the TV, a news report details how the Nikkei stock value has plummeted following the death of Rikudo Kisaburo. The report gives a brief history of the late tycoon, explaining how he returned from the front lines and started a small transportation company that he grew into the massive Rikudo Group, a financial conglomerate that supported the entire Showa period's economy. As Shiro eats, another strange news story airs. At a local kindergarten, a huge decapitated cat head has been found. The threats against him are becoming more direct. On a nearby wall, graffiti explicitly calls for his death with messages like "Aguri die and I'll kill you." Arriving home, Shiro notes new graffiti on his building's wall, wondering if his house has become some kind of tourist attraction for hooligans. His thoughts are cut short when he notices a silhouette in his room's window. Instead of taking the stairs, Shiro opts for a more direct approach, deciding to climb up the building's exterior to reach his apartment. Peering through the window, he sees his messy, empty room. He's impressed that someone had the guts to come here and looks forward to seeing the intruder's face. Before entering, Shiro checks his primitive security system. He notes that the tripwire is untouched and the razor blade under the doorknob is clean. That's why he doesn't bother locking the door. He opens it and calmly asks, Who are you?" Inside, an impeccably dressed elderly gentleman is kneeling politely in the center of the room, waiting for him with a calm, composed expression. Shiro questions how a weak old man could have possibly gotten into his second-floor apartment. The man simply states that the front door was open, so he came in to wait. Shiro is skeptical until the man presents his business card. A flicker of recognition crosses Shiro's face as he realizes it's the same old man from the train. The card identifies the visitor as Nico Chukiki, a counselor for the Rikudo group. Nico Chukic gets straight to the point, confirming that he represents the Rikudo group. He addresses Shiro, stating that the news must have reached him. His dear father, Rikudo Kisaburo, has passed away. Shiro scoffs at the term "dear father." He coldly states that he has no memory of ever having a father. He elaborates, however, that he does remember a man named Kisaburo who would occasionally visit when he was a child living with his mother. A flashback shows a memory of this unpleasant bastard. A young, dirt-stained Shiro looks up at the intimidating figure of Kisaburo, who has just noticed an ant crawling up his knee. Kisaburo looks down at the ant between his fingers. He gives the young Shiro a chilling order. Kill all of the ants in this garden. Don't leave a single one alive. Back in the present, Chukic asks what became of the ants. Shiro dismisses the memory, telling the old man to stop asking pointless questions and get to the real reason for his visit, assuming it's about the inheritance. Chukic clarifies that the purpose of his visit isn't for Shiro to receive any inheritance. Instead, he presents a document titled Inheritance Disclaimer. He asks Shiro, as the illegitimate child, to sign the legally binding document and disclaim all inheritance left to him by Rikudo Kisaburo. Shiro is visibly shocked by the audacity of the request to simply give up everything. Shiro quickly deduces that Kisaburu's legitimate children don't want to share their fortune with an unknown child. Chukic simply says he needs a signature and denies that the other children want anything from him. Chukic corrects him again, stating this is the will of the great Kisaburo himself. He then begins to tell the fairy tale of Puss in Boots, where Miller's youngest son receives only a cat as his inheritance. Shiro gives his answer by contemptuously tearing the disclaimer in two. He declares that while he has no interest in money, he hates being told what to do more than anything else. Shiro smirks, asking what will happen if he refuses to accept the terms. Chukic's expression hardens as he reveals that there were specific instructions for this exact scenario. Chukic begins to state that his grim instructions were to kill. But before he can finish his sentence, a Molotov cocktail smashes through the window. The room is instantly engulfed in flames as the Molotov cocktail explodes on the floor. Shiro reacts not with panic, but with exhilaration, exclaiming that this time the attackers are serious. He leaps out of the fire's path while Chukic calmly observes the sturdiness of the cola bottle used, once again calling it the work of amateurs. Outside, a new group of assailants, led by a cocky blonde man with a katana, watches the building burn. His girlfriend cheers him on, sure that Aguri is panicking. The leader declares this is what he gets for being a very bad boy. The blonde man reveals he was the one who put the severed cat heads on the kindergarten fence, angry that a rich man's death was overshadowing his antics. He believes that killing the infamous Aguri for his assassination debut will make him a legend. Suddenly, the apathetic cat mascot head that Shiro brought home seems to glare with a vengeful energy. The mascot head flies through the air and smacks the blonde man squarely in the back of the head, much to his shock and his girlfriend's confusion. Before he can recover, an arrow flies out of the darkness, piercing his earlobe. The man falls back in pain as Shiro appears on the balcony above, armed with a bow. Shiro casually feigns disappointment, remarking, "Ah shit, I missed." He adds that it's difficult to aim properly with no time to prepare. The blonde assailant is furious, screaming at Shiro for using a ranged weapon, calling it a coward's move. Shiro scoffs at the accusation of cowardice. From his vantage point, he declares that this is nothing more than two scoundrels trying to kill each other. In a fight like this, everything is fair and square. The terrified thug scrambles to his feet to run away, screaming for Shiro to wait. But his pleas fall on deaf ears as Shiro draws his bow again, calmly commenting on the nice view of his fleeing target's back before letting the next arrow fly. This time, Shiro doesn't miss. His arrow strikes the fleeing man squarely in the back, dropping him to the ground. The would-be assassin realizes with terror that Shiro is far more dangerous than the rumors claimed, screaming that he's no match. Shiro coolly walks towards him, taunting him about being haunted by the cat's vengeful spirits. Shiro tries to shoot the man again at point-blank range, but the cheap bowstring snaps. He laments that he can't use such cheap equipment in a real fight. Pinning the man down with the mascot head, Shiro draws his katana. He mockingly asks if he should slice his throat or the back of his neck, telling him to beg for his life in cat language, since he's clearly not human. Terrified, the man begins to meow desperately, promising he'll be a good cat and will never harm another one, mistakenly believing Shiro is a cat lover. Shiro clarifies that he doesn't particularly like cats. He just possesses a dark urge to destroy things. He flashes back to his childhood, where he stomped on tens of thousands of ants, reflecting that killing without meaning is just miserable for both the killer and the killed. But now, Shiro explains there is meaning. His opponent took a risk to kill him for fame, and Shiro must kill to protect himself. Panicked, the man confesses there was no risk, as a contact and the police promised to protect him if he succeeded. Unfazed by the talk of a police connection, Shiro raises his sword. "Let's see him protect you now," he says coldly, as the assassin's girlfriend screams for him to stop. The deed is done. The blond man lies dead, impaled by his own sword through the cat head. Nico Chukic calmly stands over the body while Shiro and the horrified girlfriend look on. In a surprising display of strength, Chukic effortlessly stops Shiro's sword with his foot. He reveals his top-class steel boots, made by a master swordsmith, and remarks that a swing from an amateur can't do more than scratch them. He tells Shiro, "Let's end it here. You're a small rascal after all." Chukic offers to dispose of the bodies and ensure the incident is covered up, proposing they settle the inheritance disclaimer later. Shiro tells him to get on with it, but Chukic insists he will get his agreement, as it is the last will of the great Kisaburu. Shiro allows him to take the body, but reiterates that he doesn't care about the inheritance or the will. Chukic then reveals a hidden connection, recounting how he was once ordered by Kisaburu to look after a little boy whose feet were covered in wounds from stepping on ants. The flashback continues, showing a younger Chukic tending to the infected wounds on young Shiro's feet, telling him they need to be disinfected. Chukic asks the boy why he's killing ants. Shiro explains that he must kill them all, or that guy, Kisabu, won't come back, and his mother gets lonely. He dismisses using insecticide as a coward's method. With tears in his eyes, the young Shiro explains his twisted logic. He doesn't want to kill them, but if he has to kill the bad insects, he must become a bad insect too. Otherwise, it would be unfair. Back in the present, as Chukic carries the bodies away, he tells Shiro that he sees he is still stepping on ants, as if he took his father's last words to heart and continues to protect his will. Shiro angrily tells him to stop. Shiro furiously states he smashed everything that bothered him out of his own will, not for his father. But Chukic continues, revealing Kisaburu's last words, spoken while clutching his hand. "Chukiki, listen, protect my child." Shiro. As Chukic walks away, he finishes relaying Kisaburu's final sentiment. "He's the only one who carries my blood." Enraged, Shiro screams at him to shut up. Shiro fires another arrow, but Chukic, without even turning around, catches it deftly in his hand, stopping it just short of his back. Shiro asks the old man who he really is. Chukic smiles, explaining that smashing ants one by one is fine, but the mighty king of the ants will smash you with a single step while laughing. He gestures to his ornate footwear, declaring, "I'm just a Nico Chukiki in boots." Shiro scoffs at the talk of a great evil and a king of the ants, muttering that even a king is just the same kind of animal as him in the end. He watches as Chukic disappears with the bodies. The scene shifts to the imposing Rikudo finance headquarters. A smarmy police officer, Superintendent General Kurosawa Kazuyoshi, is profusely thanking a Mr. Ryutaru for vital information on a murder case. We are formally introduced to the new president of the Rikudo Group and Kisaburu's eldest son, Rikudo. He humbly dismisses the superintendent's praise and offers him a map to maintain their good relations. The map is a diagram pinned with countless locations. Ryutaru explains it contains all the information his group possesses on finance, logistics, transportation, and the entire underworld, including the locations of scoundrels the police are unaware of. Ryutaru holds up a toy ant, explaining his father's philosophy. He says Kisaburu believe the most useful things in the world are greedy, bad ants, which the superintendent correctly interprets as scoundrels. With a menacing grin, Ryuru reveals his own take on the philosophy. The one who can control and make use of those bad ants can stand on top of them and become the king of the ants. As Ryuru plots to reach the top, the scene cuts back to Shiro, walking down a street alone. Frustrated that no one will employ him and seeing the threatening graffiti on the walls, he resigns himself to eating cheap beef bowls and hamburgers for the foreseeable future. Shiro arrives back at his apartment to a strange sight. The large, apathetic cat head from his old job is now sitting on his wall, surrounded by a group of real cats. He wonders if it's another prank, but he's hit by a terrible smell like raw garbage. Annoyed, he approaches, worried the stench will fill his room. He lifts the mascot head and recoils in shock. The stench is coming from the severed, rotting head of the blonde assassin he killed earlier, left as a gruesome warning. The scene flashes back to Ryu, looking out over the city. He identifies Aguri Shiro as the only other man with a blood relation to his father and resolves to stomp on him and kill him before anyone learns of his existence. Show the two opposing kings. While Ryuru calmly plots, Shiro, holding the severed head of his enemy, roars in defiance. Isn't he fun, the one calling himself king of the ants? I am the king, he declares, ready to prove which of them is the stronger bad ant. The scene opens at the luxurious Rikudo Parthenon Hotel, where a lavish meal is being served. A character, unseen, thinks to themselves how someone they've spotted looks very tasty, expressing a desire to squeeze their body and bones. Rikudo Shizuru, a glamorous woman with glasses, is on the phone, dismissing a concern by claiming she just wanted to have some girl talk. Elsewhere, a young actor named Yuta is mentioned in relation to a new movie's cast, while men in suits, likely executives or bodyguards, stand by. During the meal, Shizuru mockingly brings up a tan boy who looks like a roasted pig, feigning that she forgot his name, making a clear, derogatory reference to someone not present. Her younger brother, Rikudo Kiryu, looks up from his handheld game, annoyed. He tells Shizuru to stop talking, accusing her of manipulating the situation to change a movie's lead role without taking any blame, noting that she's always been that way. Shizuru patronizingly asks Kiryu when he got so cool and suggests he try debuting as an idol. Kiryu bluntly tells her to cut it out, claiming he can't even put on a proper smile. As they leave, Shizuru cheerfully says her goodbyes to the director. Shizuru continues to needle Kiryu, calling his reluctance a waste. She boasts that she could easily promote him on her TV program to make him a star, adding that he seems to have too much free time. The focus shifts to the third sibling, Rikudo Ryuru. He tears into the roasted pig with his hands, commenting that even though the three of them are finally having dinner together, his siblings aren't eating anything. Kiryu expresses his disgust at the meal, saying he'd throw up. Shizuru remarks on Ryuru's large appetite, unchanged since childhood. Ryuru replies that he gets bored of any taste quickly and just wants to have one truly satisfying meal in his life. Changing the subject, Shizuru casually asks Ryuru about that case, which he understands to mean their father's illegitimate child. Kiryu interjects, calling the illegitimate child an infamous outcast and a hooligan. He coldly suggests they just leave him alone to get stabbed and die. Shizuru sharply rebukes him, telling him to never wish for someone's death. Shizuru states that as noble children, they must maintain a good image. She proposes they be polite and simply label the illegitimate child as unwelcome. The scene then cuts away from the portrait of their father to a shot of a wild burger restaurant, transitioning to a new setting. The scene is now a chaotic fast food restaurant. Two men lie beaten and bloody on the floor. A group of onlookers stare in shock at the violent aftermath of a fight. The restaurant is in disarray with another body on the floor. The crowd identifies the culprit as a regular troublemaker, who is seen sitting calmly at a table amidst the chaos. A close-up reveals the man, calmly eating a burger. A speech bubble explicitly identifies him by his full name, Aguri Shiro. The restaurant manager, flustered, begs the guest, Aguri Shiro, to leave, claiming he is troubling the other guests. Shiro calmly retorts, asking what he did wrong, explaining that he simply exterminated some trash that attacked him with a knife while he was on his way to his table. A young employee watches in awe, amazed that Shiro took down 2 armed men with single strikes. The manager, however, explodes in anger, screaming that Shiro's very existence is like stinky, raw garbage that attracts filthy shit flies to his restaurant. Shiro stands up, a grin on his face. He mockingly repeats the manager's words. Flies swarm around garbage. Clearly amused by the insult. Shiro leans in, suggesting a cuter way to put it would be energetic little ants get attracted to sweet sugar. He then turns the manager's insult back on him, stating that if you call someone garbage, you're nothing but garbage yourself. With a menacing look, Shiro picks up a heavy metal bar, warning the terrified manager and onlookers that raw garbage is flammable and catches on fire quite easily. Shiro swings the heavy object with incredible force, smashing it down. He then calmly spits out a piece of food, his eyes cold and focused. The manager lies terrified on the ground as a boot steps near him, showing that Shiro's attack was a display of power rather than a direct assault on the man. The scene shifts to a different confrontation. A young man, presumably a part-timer, has another boy pinned to the floor. The boy on the ground, who resembles Shiro, smiles sadistically and compliments his attacker's martial arts skills, noting with amusement that he can't move. A close-up shows the attacker panting heavily, his face a mixture of exertion and shock as he tries to keep his opponent pinned down. The boy on the ground continues to taunt his attacker, telling him it's all right to pound his face and sarcastically asking if he'll get a raise for knocking him out. The attacker grits his teeth, trembling under the strain and psychological pressure. But in a shocking reversal, the attacker is suddenly on his knees, begging for forgiveness. Shiro now stands over him, holding a knife to the attacker's neck, revealing he himself was stabbed in the process. Shiro mockingly calls the attacker a scary man, sarcastically explaining that if he hadn't instinctively grabbed the knife and stabbed him during the tackle, his own face would have been smashed in. Continuing the flashback, Aguri Shiro stands up, brushing himself off. He callously tells his defeated opponent that it would have been a nightmare if the man had wet himself while holding him down. He then gives him a cold piece of advice. Next time, knock out the opponent with a single strike instead of tackling. With an intense close-up, Shiro declares that there's no point in practicing martial arts if you can't beat someone with it. He then turns and walks away, telling the stunned onlookers that he'll be back. The scene returns to the present, where a group of delinquents discuss the incident. They identify the man as Aguri, the most wicked guy in the entire prefecture, confirming that no one can beat him, with or without weapons. They recall that the other fighter, a Japanese sword-wielding freak named Pero, was aiming for Aguri's head, but had the tables turned and was never seen again. The conversation delves deeper into Aguri's past. They bring up a notorious bully known as Skinner Hagi, Hagiwara, who was known for skinning his opponent's arms with a knife. 3 years ago, he went after Aguri, who was just a middle school student at the time. Aguri snatched Hagiwara's knife and brutally skinned his head in return. The story of Hagiwara concludes. Since his hair couldn't grow back over the scars, he inherited his family's temple and is now a monk. The panel shows a reformed Hagiwara, now bald and bearing the scars on his scalp, welcoming a new, frightened delinquent who wants to join the temple to stop his own violent lifestyle. The delinquent confesses his terror to the monk, Hagiwara. He explains that he recently encountered Aguri Shiro on a train and is now too afraid to leave his house or go to school. Even a mere sight of a cat sends him into a screaming panic. A flashback within the story shows why he is so terrified. Aguri, for some bizarre reason dressed as a cat, had beaten him so severely that he felt like he had met the granny of death from the Sanzu River 20 times over. The scene shows the terrified man praying to Aguri for forgiveness, while his friend yells at him to pray to a deity instead of the demon-possessed man. The narrator concludes that this is a well-known story among lowlives who have been half-killed by Aguri. The narration concludes the legend of Aguri. For some reason, The lowlives who get stepped on by that demon seem to get reborn. The imagery depicts a powerful, godlike figure stepping on a defeated soul. The scene abruptly shifts to a gritty gym at night, where two men are locked in a grappling hold on the floor. One man taunts the other, who is identified as Sakamizu. He heard that Sakamizu recently lost a fight out on the streets. The taunting continues as the gym owner berates Sakamizu for losing to an amateur in public after getting stabbed, blaming him for the gym's lack of new members. Another gym member with a mohawk suggests the lack of new members is because the owner is too hard on them, pointing out the current abuse of Sakamizu as an example. Sakamizu lies on a bench, looking dejected. The gym owner callously kicks Sakamizu, who has apparently wet himself from the stress or pain, and orders someone to throw him out. Just then, his phone rings, and he identifies himself as Iwayoshi. Iwayoshi answers the phone, addressing the caller as Mr. Kitsune. He eagerly asks if the call is about work. Iwayoshi expresses relief, saying Kitsune is a lifesaver as the gym's finances are grim. Meanwhile, Kitsune gives instructions about a meeting place involving someone named Gong. A former sumo champion is also seen, asking not to be called by his old stage name. The scene shifts to Roppongi at night, outside a club ominously named Ant Colony. A man in a suit, likely Kitsune, is told the target is inside the VIP room. He's then confronted by two large men in sunglasses. A group of thugs armed with baseball bats approaches, asking if a certain pretty boy actor is inside. Another thug is shown getting violent with someone, yelling insults. One of the hooded figures swiftly and brutally strikes a thug with a weapon, displaying professional and deadly efficiency. The man in the suit notes that the strike was nothing like the powerful open-hand punch of a sumo champion, implying a different, more precise kind of deadliness. A business card is shown before the scene cuts. Now in a car, the sophisticated fixer, Kitsune, answers his phone. Kitsune speaks with his client, asking if they secured the target, who should be in the VIP room. He teases the client about their old name, Shadow Rock, before confirming the target was secured quickly. It's implied this client is one of the Rikudo siblings. The client, looking over a scene of two women in a VIP lounge, confirms they understand the instructions. The scene now focuses on the humiliated fighter, Sakamizu, who has been given a new task. He's on the phone with his employer, looking down at a brutally beaten actor on the floor. Sakamizu confirms the mission details he's receiving. Inspire him to change profession, but not kill him, is it? This is clearly a test of his resolve. The voice on the phone gives the final cold-blooded clarification. Break his arm. The terrified actor on the floor screams that he just got a part in a big movie, but his pleas are useless as the man standing over him prepares to carry out the brutal order without hesitation. The scene continues with Sakamizu in the car with his new employers. One of them asks if he knows why they brought him along for a job like this, noting it's his first time. Sakamizu quietly answers, "No." The man tells Sakamizu it's because he's one of us. He calls Sakamizu a precious one, reminding him that it's been exactly 1 year since he joined the gym, and he was the only newbie who endured the brutal training without running away. The man acknowledges Sakamizu has skills and guts, but lacks crucial resolve. He reminds Sakamizu of his own words, "I don't want to be bullied by hooligans anymore." He challenges him, asking how much longer he plans on letting hooligans make him cry. In the present, watching the actor get tortured, Sakamizu remembers this and makes his decision. Resolved, Sakamizu's hands are shown as he contemplates his task. He thinks to himself, which technique should I use? I was just lost until now. He has found his purpose. The scene cuts to the fixer, Kitsune, in his car, listening to the actor's screams over the phone as his arm is broken. Kitsune calmly texts, a slight smirk on his face, as the man on the other end carries out the brutal task. In the car with Kitsune is Rikudo Kiryu, who has been listening. He asks Kitsune who the client is, but Kitsune says it's confidential. Kiryu correctly guesses it's his sister, Shizuru. Kitsune, identifying himself as the leader of the Rikudo group's secret service, confirms he would do anything for his lord, even abduction or confinement. Kitsune adds that in the case of murder, he'd have to think it over depending on the target, implying there are lines even he might not cross. Kiryu, still playing his game, then looks up with a serious expression. With intense focus, Kiryu tells Kitsune, "There's a guy I want killed." The scene then cuts to a wide shot of the city, leaving the request hanging in the air. A news report is shown. A movie called Everlasting Summer Skier was planned for release, but the main actor, Mr. Ishikuro Kinta, stepped down after being caught in an intoxicated incident. He was immediately replaced by the hopeful Kizurasa Yuta. The new actor, Kizurasa Yuta, is shown on TV, beaming. He gushes about how the director told him his collarbone was his most charming feature. Watching this, Aguri Shiro, who is lounging nearby, can only comment, "What an idiot." The scene finds Aguri Shiro lying on the edge of a public fountain, complaining that he's starving. Shiro gets up annoyed. He complains that even though he's been practically sleeping in a public area, not a single hoodlum has shown up for him to shake down for money. He wonders why a cute woman can't show up instead. As if on cue, the old Rikudo representative from before appears, holding out a fan of rice balls. He tells Shiro, "Have this, I made it myself." The representative proudly lists the flavors of the rice balls: katsuobushi, kombu, and salmon. Shiro, however, reacts with comical disgust and annoyance, shouting, "Who cares?" Shiro correctly guesses the representative is back about the inheritance disclaimer. The old man confirms this, holding out the document and asking Mr. Shiro to sign it. Shiro refuses, stating he doesn't care about the inheritance and that he's not taking orders from anyone, referencing the police lecture he got over the severed head left at his place. The representative warns Shiro that threatening his boss is a death wish, explaining that a man with so much power could kill him instantly, with no warning, like a child stepping on an ant. Suddenly, Shiro agrees. "Okay," he says simply. The representative is glad to hear it. Shiro declares it's time to bid farewell to his worthless, everyday life, which he has honestly gotten sick of. Shiro explains his reasoning. The guys who came after him before always had an air of pretense. Once he cornered them, they would all start crying and apologizing. He continues his monologue, stating that it's not just hooligans, but all people with power, authority, or money. They have no problems stepping on the weak, but when faced with true danger, they beg not to be killed. He finds it pathetic and feels nothing when dealing with such small fry. With a look of intense desire, Shiro proclaims what he's truly looking for: an opponent who enjoys giving and taking life as much as he does. A big shot worthy of killing. Having made his decision to enter the fray, Shiro turns to the representative and says, "So I'll be looking forward to this one." He walks off, leaving the old man behind as the scene transitions to a city overpass. Shiro walks alone, climbing the stairs of the pedestrian overpass, his mind now set on the new, dangerous path he has chosen. As he reaches the top of the overpass, a group of hooded thugs armed with bats and pipes emerges, blocking his path. The leader, Sakamizu, asks, "Are you Aguri?" Shiro meets their gaze with a calm, knowing smile. Shiro looks up, his gaze locking onto the hooded figure of Sakamizu, who stands at the forefront of the gang, ready to strike with a baseball bat. From an overhead view, the ambush is complete as Shiro is surrounded on the overpass by Sakamizu's crew. Far from being intimidated, a confident, almost predatory smile spreads across Shiro's face as he remarks, "Ha, you really came instantly." Shiro calmly assesses the situation. He notes his attackers know how to use a tight formation and aren't amateurs, but a group that attacks people regularly. He observes they are all larger than him, making it difficult to seriously injure them. One of the thugs, Sakamizu, is startled as Shiro seems to notice something. With a wide, mocking grin, Shiro recognizes one of his attackers. He cheerfully asks, "I knew it. Aren't you the part-time burger flipper?" He then asks if the small knife wound he gave the man has healed yet, referencing a past encounter. Shiro continues to taunt the leader, Sakamizu, asking what's going on. He says if Sakamizu had something on his mind, he should have just asked. Shiro expresses disappointment that Sakamizu brought a whole team for revenge. Sakamizu, however, states the situation is simple. They have orders from a client to take Shiro to a facility in the mountains and put cuffs on him. Sakamizu moves forward and begins to place the handcuffs on one of Shiro's wrists, seemingly without any resistance. As the cuff clicks shut, Sakamizu expresses gratitude that Shiro is being reasonable, hoping to get the human delivery business over with quickly. Shiro, however, with a menacing grin, suddenly asks, "Hey, burger flipper, does this job pay well?" Before Sakamizu can react, Shiro twists his cuffed arm and delivers a powerful blow, catching him completely off guard. Shiro brutally pummels the now helpless Sakamizu. Another thug yells at Sakamizu, asking what's gotten into him, while Sakamizu cries for him to stop. But just as Shiro is about to land another blow, Sakamizu screams, "Stop it, you idiot," causing a momentary distraction. Using the opening created by Sakamizu's shout, another thug strikes Shiro hard from behind with a weapon, catching him completely by surprise. Shiro is knocked unconscious from the blow to the back of his head, his face bloody. Sakamizu's accomplice stands over him, having successfully taken him down with a cheap shot. The scene shifts to two cars driving on a dark, winding mountain road at night. Inside the car, Sakamizu sits silently while the thug who knocked Shiro out calls him a stupid idiot. The thug continues to berate Sakamizu, calling him a retard for making his hooligan debut at age 20 and threatening to break his spine if he messes up again. In the back seat, the unconscious and bloody Shiro is slumped over. In the back of the car, the kidnappers, including one with a distinctive mohawk, hold the captive Shiro. They ask the driver if they are there yet, and the driver confirms they are almost inside the mountain. As they drive through a tunnel, one of the thugs notices that Shiro isn't moving at all and asks if he's all right. The thug with the mohawk grabs Shiro's hair, yelling at him to wake up. The thugs discuss Shiro's condition. One nervously laughs that he's not dead yet, just out cold. Another, more cautiously, notes that he took a really hard beating to the head and that it could be dangerous. One of the thugs pulls out a safety pin with a sadistic grin. He tells the others not to worry, as he can wake Shiro up immediately with his special alarm clock. With grotesque detail, the thug demonstrates how he'll push the safety pin under Shiro's fingernail, telling the others to look. The thugs look on, one with a disturbed expression, the other with glee. Suddenly, their expressions change to shock as they check on Shiro, and one exclaims, "Wait a sec, this is really bad. He might actually be dead." Panic erupts in the car. The mohawked thug grabs the driver, yelling that they're in trouble because the contract for the job clearly stated no killing was allowed. The driver screams back that he can't pull over while they're in a tunnel. As they speed through the tunnel in a panic, the thugs decide they need to get out and call their boss, Iwayoshi, immediately. The driver prepares to stop as soon as they exit the tunnel. Just as they exit the tunnel, the Rikudo representative appears as if from nowhere, leaping from his own car towards theirs with a determined expression, ordering them to pull over. While one of the thugs frantically tries to call his boss, the representative lands on the roof of their car. The windshield shatters inward as he smashes through it, causing chaos and terror inside the vehicle. The car veers off the road as the representative's foot crashes through the glass. The thugs scream, thinking it's falling rocks, but a close-up on the bloody, unconscious face of Shiro reveals the truth. It's someone's foot. The car has crashed. The representative, now inside the wrecked vehicle, viciously attacks the thugs, grabbing one by the face while another lies seemingly dead or unconscious. The representative snaps one of the thugs' necks with a brutal kick. Outside the crashed car, Shiro lies injured and in handcuffs in the grass as the other thugs flee in terror. The representative continues his efficient takedown of the thugs. The man with the mohawk swings a bat at him, but the old man easily disarms him, breaking his wrist in the process. With brutal efficiency, the representative stomps on the downed thug, finishing him off. Another thug manages to flee the scene, cursing the shitty old man as he escapes into the woods. Aguri Shiro, now conscious, gets to his feet and angrily confronts his rescuer. He calls the representative a violent pensioner, complaining that the rescue was way too over the top and that he could have been killed. The representative simply replies, "Mr. Shiro, I'm glad you're unharmed." Shiro complains that he is far from unharmed, stating that the thugs hit him more than 20 times in the head after he barely said anything. He winces in pain from his cuffed and injured wrists. The representative suggests they get back into the car, offering to take Shiro to one of the organization's lower branches. He then once again presents the inheritance disclaimer and a pen, telling him to sign. Shiro, with a bloody and maniacal grin, points out the obvious. No, look, my hands are bound. The scene cuts away to the other car of thugs, unaware of the chaos. They wonder where the car behind them went and why their phone conversation was cut off. Believing they're almost at their destination, they relax, thinking the mission is as good as over. Back in the representative's car, the old man drives along the dark mountain road. He looks at Shiro, who is now in the passenger seat, and says, "Mr. Shiro, I'm glad you're still coming. Just please fasten your seatbelt." Shiro, bandaged but filled with a new, fierce determination, declares that he has to know what he was kidnapped for. He wants to see the person who dared to step on him, the king of the ants, with his own eyes. With an intense, bloodthirsty look, he challenges this new, powerful enemy, wondering if the king of the ants will finally be able to satisfy him. Following the intense events of the previous chapter, a car speeds down the road at night. Inside, the Rikudo representative urgently pleads with their captive, Aguri Shiro, to turn back. The representative warns Shiro that if he continues to chase after the Rikudo family, he'll only get caught and killed. But Shiro, with a smirk on his face, retorts that the roles have reversed. It's no longer a game of tag where he is the one being chased. Now, it's his turn to be the hunter. The scene shifts to a grand, towering hotel nestled in the mountains. Despite being neglected for over 10 years, the building and its grounds are impeccably maintained, not a single speck of dust in sight. Inside the pristine lobby, Lord Kiryu, one of the Rikudo heirs, marvels at the hotel's condition and asks his subordinate, Kitsune, if they could reopen it immediately. Kitsune explains that although the hotel has been officially closed for a long time, it remains functional. Because of its hidden location in the mountains, it's secretly used as a gathering place for important people who wish to hide from the public for extended periods. Kiryu correctly guesses the hotel's true, sinister purpose. With a chilling smile, he concludes that it's the perfect location for the conglomerate to kidnap, torture, and murder their enemies, a fact he finds amusingly scary. Kiryu's attention is then drawn to an old advertisement poster from when the hotel first opened. He wonders about the man modeling in the photo. Kitsune reveals the identity of the man in the poster. It's none other than Kiryu's father, Lord Rikudo Kishibu, in his prime. Kitsune adds that the child he's lovingly embracing in the photo is a very young Lord Kiryu himself. Tired of the stories, Kiryu's demeanor shifts instantly. He pulls out a pistol, points it at Kitsune, and coldly demands to know the whereabouts of the hoodlum, referring to Aguri Shiro. Unfazed, Kitsune waves his hand dismissively and assures Kiryu that Aguri Shiro, the insolent, illegitimate child of Lord Kishibu, has already been captured and is on his way. He promises his elite guards will escort Shiro, guaranteeing Kiryu's safety. Leaving the dirty work to Kitsune, he accepts the task with a terrifyingly blank expression, promising that all of Lord Kiryu's wishes for boiling, burning, and burying will be done. The scene cuts back to the open road, where another car carrying a large man is seen driving at night, presumably also heading towards the mountain hotel. The story delves into a flashback, showing a man named Sakamizu being advised to let go of his thirst for vengeance against past bullies, as he is now working with a much more dangerous group. His intense eyes suggest a deep-seated anger. The flashback continues, revealing the source of his trauma. A younger Sakamizu stands on a rooftop ledge, surrounded by a crowd of jeering bullies, all chanting for him to jump. With ropes tied to his body, the bullies try to convince Sakamizu that jumping will make him one of them. The lead bully stands close, holding the other end of the rope. The supposed bungee jumping is revealed to be a cruel trap. The lead bully takes out a flask and a lighter, dousing the rope in flammable liquid. Sakamizu realizes with horror that he might actually die here. The bully ignites the lighter, starting a countdown. He gives Sakamizu a twisted choice: either jump with a smile and be celebrated with fireworks, or fall while burning and become the firework himself, a spectacle to be laughed at. Returning to the present, the old representative mirrors the past trauma by starting his own countdown. He threatens that if Shiro doesn't stop the car in 1 minute, he will take the steering wheel and drive them both off the cliffs. Shiro is stunned by this insane ultimatum. The representative calmly explains his reasoning. The kidnappers Shiro faced before were merely stray dogs, but the men waiting for them, the Rikudo conglomerate, are well-trained Dobermans who carry pistols. He argues that falling off a cliff offers a higher chance of survival. As the countdown reaches 50 seconds, the pressure becomes too much. With a desperate scream, Shiro slams on the brakes, finally giving in to the old man's demand. With the car stopped on the side of the road, the representative presents a document to Shiro. He instructs him to sign it to ensure he will no longer be a nuisance to the Rikudo conglomerate, promising that Lord Kisaburu's sons will reward his understanding. Shiro scoffs at the conglomerate's audacity, coming after him after all this time, but asks if he just needs to write his name. Annoyed, the representative confirms, insisting that he write his full name. Shiro signs the paper and hands it back. The representative takes it, relieved that the task is done. However, a sly, knowing smile spreads across Shiro's face, hinting at a deception. In a brilliant display of cunning, Shiro feigns a clumsy move just as the representative takes the document. "Oh no, the wind!" he shouts, letting the paper slip from his grasp and flutter away over the cliffside. While the old man and his guards are momentarily stunned by the loss of the crucial document, Shiro seizes his chance. With a quick, sarcastic "sorry, Gramps," he vaults over the guardrail, beginning his daring escape down the steep cliff. The Rikudo representative scrambles towards the edge, screaming in disbelief as Shiro disappears over the side. One of the men remarks that it's a cliff, not a swimming pool, but Shiro's voice echoes back, "I'll be right back." Down below, Shiro lands safely and gets into a waiting car, remarking that the old man will be back soon. Meanwhile, the representative manages to climb down and retrieve the signed paper from a branch, only to find Shiro had deliberately written the wrong name. Back at the Rikudo Mountaintop Hotel, the welcoming party grows impatient, noting that their targets are late. Suddenly, a car is spotted rolling slowly towards the entrance, and a guard yells for it to be parked. But the car doesn't stop. It accelerates, plowing right through the guards. The head thug, Nico Tsukichi, stares in wide-eyed shock, cursing the idiotic driver as his men are sent flying. From behind the wheel, a man with a wild, terrifying grin announces his arrival. It's Aguri Shiro, declaring, "Play ball." Nico Tsukichi, barely dodging the vehicle, screams in fury, calling Shiro a maniac as the car careens past him, injuring his leg in the process. Despite his injury, the enraged Nico Tsukichi gets to his feet and roars, challenging Shiro to a direct confrontation. "Come at me. Bring it on." The fight is over in an instant. Shiro, having exited the vehicle, brutally slams Nico's head into the car's hood, leaving a dent. Nico collapses, spitting blood and admitting defeat. As Shiro deals with the other thugs, they express shock at his strength. They ask if he was a sumo wrestler, to which Shiro confirms he held the highest rank. He mockingly chastises the now-defeated Nico for ganging up on him with a metal bat. Without a moment's hesitation, Shiro delivers a swift, powerful blow to another one of the guards, sending him reeling. Standing over his fallen opponent, Shiro states with cold finality that he's not just some small-time gangster. Whoever messes with him is messing with a demon. With the guards taken care of, Shiro, still in handcuffs, crouches down and begins to search them, wondering where he can find the keys for his cuffs and, more importantly, their boss. Just then, another thug appears, enraged to see Shiro over his defeated brother. He yells at the hooligan to back off, but Shiro barely gives him a glance, sarcastically apologizing for having forgotten about him. Driven into a frenzy by Shiro's mockery, the thug pulls out a knife and lunges forward, screaming, "Don't make fun of me." Shiro calmly taunts him, even turning his back to offer a free shot. He correctly guesses the thug's backstory, that he practiced martial arts so he wouldn't lose to hooligans. The thug realizes that to beat a monster like Shiro, he has to become even worse. Shiro continues to belittle him, saying he doesn't have the talent for it. As the thug lunges, Shiro grabs his arm, declaring it's time for the fireworks, a chilling callback to the bully from his past. Shiro effortlessly slams the thug's face into the side of the car, shattering his nose. He looks down on the defeated man, stating that a place like the world of outlaws is not for the likes of him. In a display of pure brutality, Shiro grabs the thug and violently throws him off the elevated driveway, leaving him to fall amongst the other defeated bodies below. The thug, battered and broken, can only whimper for help and surrender. Shiro looks on, unimpressed by his pathetic pleas. Shiro delivers a final, chilling lecture. He tells the man he's been lucky so far, only meeting kind outlaws. But the real world of outlaws is nothing like petty sports. You can't just bail whenever you want. A brief flashback shows Sakamizu's past bullies mocking him for crying and pissing himself, deciding he's too pathetic to bother with. This memory contrasts sharply with the cityscape, highlighting how far he's come from that moment of weakness. High above the brutal scene, Lord Kiryu, Kitsune, and their men emerge onto a balcony. Kitsune smiles, looking down at the carnage Shiro has wrought, and calls it a beautiful sight. They're on the top floor, at the open-air bath where Kiryu's father's poster was photographed. Kitsune playfully asks if Kiryu wants his back washed, but Kiryu, revealing his obsession with cleanliness, sternly tells him to stop joking. Kiryu explains the source of his misophobia. Due to a disease, he was raised in a sterile room from a very young age. Now, the mere thought of bathing in water that an unknown person has touched makes him feel faint. He elaborates that because of his disease, he has difficulty letting anyone, even his own family, touch him. Kitsune, however, offers to gently wash his knees, suggesting that it might be acceptable if it's someone he trusts, hinting at their uniquely close and unsettling relationship. Kiryu continues, showing a family photo of his father with his other two siblings. He explains that due to his illness and isolation, the family albums are full of pictures of his father and siblings, but there isn't a single one with him in it, leaving him with no memories of his father. He reveals he spent around 10 years hospitalized in complete isolation. During that lonely time, his only connection to the outside world and his father was the very same hotel advertisement poster, which he had stuck to the ceiling above his bed and stared at all day, every day. With tears in his eyes, he looks back at the image of his father's muscular back and admits that, to him, that man was his one and only father, even if they weren't connected by blood. Kiryu finds it strange. Even though he's finally standing in this important place, the sight of what should have been a precious memory with his father, he can't remember being here at all. Kitsune dismisses it, saying it can't be helped with childhood memories. Just then, one of the thugs from the brawl earlier arrives, dragging a hooded and handcuffed figure. He announces to Master Kitsune that he has finally arrived. The thug presents his captive, Aguri Shiro. Kitsune, noting he's alone, asks where his partner Awashi is. The thug explains that Shiro caused a car accident and the rest of the men were seriously injured and had to be taken to the hospital. Kiryu casually looks over Shiro's file, noting he is 17 years old, the same age as him. He mockingly wonders what Shiro ate to become such a rascal and orders the bag to be removed from his head for identification. When the hood is removed, Kiryu and Kitsune are taken aback. Shiro's face is a swollen, bloody pulp from the fight. Kiryu exclaims in disgust and frustration that his face is so wrecked, he can't possibly identify him. The guards warn Lord Kiryu not to get too close, but he scoffs at them, calling them absolute amateurs. He confidently states that it's all right since Shiro is completely exhausted and poses no threat. Kiryu presses the barrel of his gun against the seemingly defeated Shiro's head and taunts him, asking, "Are you really Aguri Shiro?" Below, a flashback shows Shiro casually drinking, suggesting this might all be an act. In a sudden, explosive movement, Shiro twists around, disarming Kiryu and seizing the gun for himself. Before anyone can react, he has turned the tables completely. As they struggle, the gun accidentally discharges, hitting one of Kiryu's guards in the neck. Kiryu's eyes widen in pure terror at the sudden and deadly turn of events. Shiro now holds the screaming Kiryu in a chokehold, pressing the gun to his head. The prince has become a human shield, and his elite guards are frozen in place. With the situation under his control, Shiro looks down at the guards surrounding them and declares victory in their little game. "Got you finally. I win at tag." Kitsune stares in disbelief, realizing his mistake. He thought Shiro was just a kid who had walked into a trap with no means of escape, so he had let his guard down. The guards hesitate, afraid of hitting Kiryu. Shiro mocks Kiryu's girlish looks and his complaints about being touched. Kitsune tries to reason that Shiro is trapped, but Shiro reveals a trump card, a withead explosive, threatening to blow them all up. All of Kiryu's composure shatters in an instant. The ruthless heir is reduced to a terrified child, screaming for Kitsune to save him and crying that he doesn't want to die. Shiro looks down at the whimpering Kiryu with disappointment. He had held some hope for his half-brother, but in the end, he was just another tiny ant. As he holds Kiryu, Shiro glances out at the sprawling city lights. A strange feeling washes over him, a sense of familiarity, as if he's seen this exact view before. The memory hits him. As tears well up in Kiryu's eyes, Shiro realizes with certainty that he was here a long time ago, back when he was just a kid. A flashback begins, showing a very young Shiro being held in the arms of a huge, rough-looking man he didn't know. He was looking at this same city view while taking a bath in this very spot. The man points to the city, explaining that under each of those tiny lights are people and families, all living together, making up a country. From this height, he says they all look like ants. The man laughs heartily, declaring that the Japanese islands are one giant ant nest. He, the king of this nest, then poses a question to young Shiro. "If I were to give you my seat, what would you do with the ants?" The man explains the three types of ants: the kind and obedient, the brutal and greedy, and the useless ones who do nothing. It is the king who decides who lives and who dies, all to make the country bigger. Young Shiro quietly contemplates what it means to be the king of the ants. In the present, Shiro remembers everything. The man was his father, Rikudo Kisaburo. In the past, Kisaburo excitedly asked for his son's answer, promising to reveal his biggest secret in return. Snapping back to the present, the terrified Kiryu, in a fit of rage and disgust at being touched, bites down hard on Shiro's arm, drawing blood. Shiro cries out in pain as Kitsune and the guards watch in shock. Kitsune is stunned that the germophobic Lord Kiryu, who can't stand being touched, would get so furious as to bite a stranger and soil himself with their blood. Shiro, clutching his bleeding arm, glares at Kiryu and says, "You've got some nerve." Shiro presses the gun to Kiryu's head again, threatening to kill him. But Kiryu, no longer crying, snarls back with equal hatred, "I'll definitely kill you," dismissing Shiro's taunt about him crying like a baby. Kiryu finally reveals his true motivation. He screams that he doesn't need the material inheritance, but that Shiro stole the one, most important inheritance he had from their father, his love and memory. With tears streaming down his face, Kiryu asks if Shiro could possibly understand how it feels to long for a father you've never even had the chance to see. His voice cracks as he begs Shiro to at least let him have their stepfather to himself in heaven. Hearing this, a profound shift occurs. A single tear of rage falls from Shiro's eye. He declares that he is the only one who will watch over their stepfather's legacy and makes a vow. He will kill Kiryu, his brother, and his sister. Suddenly, Shiro breaks into laughter. He finds Kiryo's twisted reasoning for wanting him dead amusing. So that's why you want to kill me. Nice going. I like you, he exclaims, a wild grin on his face. But his mood darkens just as quickly. But it's still not enough. He mutters, kicking off from the stone floor. Shiro declares that a simple confrontation like this won't make his blood boil. He tells the terrified Kiryo and the bewildered Kitsune to let him taste the dread of a true Antlion death pit. Then, without another word, Shiro leaps off the side of the building, dragging the screaming Kiryo with him. Kitsune and the guards watch in stunned horror, unable to comprehend his actions. As they plummet through the air, Kitsune yells for him to stop. Shiro, however, calmly tells the terrified Kiryo that this must be the best possible sight to see before dying, forcing him to look at the approaching ground. They crash into a body of water below with a huge splash. Kitsune and his men rush to the edge, peering down and calling out for Lord Kiryo. It turns out there was another open-air bath on a lower floor. Shiro surfaces, pulling the dazed Kiryo with him. The thugs Shiro defeated earlier are waiting, revealing they're now his allies. The thug whose nose Shiro broke declares that he doesn't need to get stronger anymore. All he wants is to see more of Shiro's insane, unpredictable actions. Shiro and his new reluctant ally run through the hotel's interior corridors. Shiro tells him to stop running, questioning if there's really anyone stupid enough to jump into shallow water like that. Shiro reveals he was waiting for him. He points to the changing room ahead, warning that it's full of enemies. Then, he shoves the thug forward, declaring, "It's your turn, body double." As the confused thug stumbles into the doorway, Shiro quickly trips him from behind, sending him sprawling onto the floor. The room isn't full of enemies, but of unconscious bodies. All of Kitsune's men are knocked out, with the old representative sleeping peacefully in a chair. Shiro stands amidst the chaos he orchestrated. Meanwhile, Kitsune carries the unconscious Kiryo through a corridor littered with his defeated men, wondering what in the world happened. He looks at the scene in fury. His great elite bodyguards, all handpicked, were beaten without firearms. He can think of only one person capable of such a feat, Master Nico Tsukichi, and wonders why he would betray the conglomerate. The scene cuts to a car speeding away from the hotel at night. The old representative is driving, with Shiro and his new body double in the back. The old man asks Shiro how he answered his father's question all those years ago. The flashback resumes. Young Shiro gives his answer, "I don't want to be something like a king. I want to be an ant who defeats the king." He explains his logic. He hates self-important guys who call themselves kings. So, he will befriend the bad ants, gather them into a brutal and cunning army, and go to war to shut them up. His father, Kisaburo, is stunned and then amused by the bold declaration. Kisaburo erupts in booming laughter, calling the answer brilliant. He makes young Shiro promise to come and defeat him one day. In return, he reveals his secret, a special view if he climbs the rocks and looks down. The secret, comically, was the women's bath below. Back in the present, Shiro dismisses his father as an idiot of a man. The old representative, Nico Tsukichi, looks on and smiles, remarking that despite it all, it seems the two of them had fun, seeing the same spirit in Shiro as he saw in his old master. The old representative, Nico Tsukichi, muses to himself about the inheritance he is passing on. He compares it to the fairy tale of Puss in Boots, casting himself as the clever cat helping his new master rise to power. Tsukichi holds up the inheritance disclaimer form he had tried to force Shiro to sign earlier. He states that now that Shiro has accepted some inheritance, referring to Tsukichi himself, they won't be needing this document anymore. With a decisive rip, Tsukichi tears the disclaimer in half and lets the pieces fly out into the night. As their battered car drives on, he formally asks his new master, "Shall we hide for some time, my lord?" 1 month later, the other Rikudo siblings discuss the situation. They still have no idea where Shiro and Tsukichi are. The eldest brother remarks that this is something only a man with their father's blood could pull off, while Kitsune reports to Lord Ryudaru that Kiryu has transformed from a weak larva into a butterfly. The scene cuts to Kiryu, calmly working on his laptop in bed. He is spreading something online that is going viral on Twitter and Line. He reflects that even if he doesn't have a blood relation to his father, the reality is that he is still the son of a noble. Kiryu reveals his plan. He is using the power of the Rikudo conglomerate's name to give sugar for the ants. He declares he won't ask for Shiro to be brought back alive. A wanted poster is shown, announcing a 100 million yen bounty for the corpse of Aguri Shiro, ensuring that vile, greedy, and atrocious ants from all over the country will now be hunting him down. In a car, Shiro Rikudo informs her brother, Ryudaru, that the people swarming the streets aren't their allies. She looks at her phone, calling them their little worker ants who are merely helping them find their target. Ryudaru scoffs at the idea that people are taking the online bounty seriously. Shizuru confirms that the game master Kiri's bounty quest is very famous. The target, shown on a phone, is a sweet sugar cube worth 100 million yen. Shizuru explains that this isn't the first time for the game master Kiri. During a long hospital stay, he spent his time playing games, recording his godlike skills under the name Tiri, which earned him worldwide respect. However, that wasn't enough for him. Kiri posted a challenge online, offering 20 million yen to anyone who could beat his fastest game, Clear Time, by even 1 second. From his hospital room, Kiri declared he would pay in exchange for entertainment, inviting them to bring excitement into his room, calling them his ants. A man checks his bank account in disbelief after receiving a 20 million yen deposit from Kiri, whom he had never even given his name or address to. Shizuru's narration explains that the bounty quests continued, driving everyone crazy for the money. Shizuru muses that everyone is stupid for dancing to her brother Kiri's tune. Ryudaru, however, notes that Kiri is actually quite serious about it, comparing the whole affair to a Bond dance. As their car speeds through the city, they decide to watch and see what their target, Aguri Shiro, will do to escape the hungry ants that encircle him. Shizuru nonchalantly complains about a mosquito biting her breast. Meanwhile, a group of bounty hunters searches for Aguri in a park. One of them, a man with a bandana and a baseball bat, is confident, saying he knows the park well from his childhood. He dismisses the idea that Aguri would hide in the open, even though eyewitness photos are circulating on Twitter. As the bounty hunters take a shortcut through the forest, the blonde woman with them complains about the struggle and stumbles. The man with the bandana recognizes an old, graffiti-covered building ahead, calling it the haunted restroom. The man explains why the restroom is considered haunted. Back in grade school, there was a murder incident where the remains of a woman were found in one of the septic tanks, but they could never find her wrists. He continues the story, mentioning a rumor that a white hand will emerge from the toilet bowl if you use it. Terrified and disgusted by the smell, the woman begs to go home. Suddenly, the man with the bandana notices that one of the stalls is occupied. A sinister grin spreads across his face as he suspects it might be their target. He yells at the person inside to come out, threatening to break down the door. The woman panics, asking what he'll do if it's a real ghost as he smashes the door with his baseball bat. As he yells for the person to come out, the door gives way and slams directly into his face, causing him to cry out in pain. The door swings open to reveal Aguri Shiro, who coolly says, "Made you wait, didn't I?" Behind him are his companions, Nico Tsukichi and Sakamizu. Aguri glares down, announcing that the restroom is now free. Looking down from the doorway, the bounty hunters see that there are 3 people inside. The man with the bandana, clutching his face in pain, is taunted by Sakamizu about which urinal he'd prefer. Nico Tsukichi calmly tells the blonde woman to step aside. Aguri complains about the small, stinking place. The woman, terrified, screams and runs out of the restroom. Sakamizu questions Aguri about why he was hiding in the first place. Aguri retorts angrily, asking why he can't just beat up the 50 or 100 guys outside and be done with it. Looking out, they see that the roads surrounding the park are packed with cars, like an open-air festival. Sakamizu warns that if they are seen, They'll be swarmed immediately and shouldn't go outside the park. Sakamizu angrily shoves his phone in Aguri's face, showing a picture of him eating a popsicle that was posted on social media. He blames Aguri entirely for their location being discovered. Aguri argues that he's not a kid and was just trying a new popsicle flavor, even getting a winning stick. Sakamizu, exasperated, questions why they're even in Tokyo if they wanted to run away, pointing out that Aguri's picture is circulating. With a confident grin, Aguri reveals their true purpose. Since Tokyo is the Rikudo conglomerate's home turf, it was obvious they would come here to fight them. As Sakamizu looks on in utter defeat, Aguri turns to Nico Tsukichi and nonchalantly asks him to handle the situation, perhaps by getting a machine gun. Nico Tsukichi calmly tells Aguri not to worry. He asserts that even if the enemies number in the thousands, they won't need a machine gun or a rocket launcher to make them scatter. As Aguri and Sakamizu watch, Nico tells them he'll be done soon and that he's going to wipe his face. He then calmly removes his glasses and begins wiping his face with a handkerchief. As rain begins to pour from the dark sky, Nico announces to Aguri that the reinforcements have arrived. Caught in the sudden downpour, the bounty hunters outside complain. Unwilling to continue the search in the rain, they decide to give up and head back to their cars. Aguri, Nico, and Sakamizu now run freely through the park as the heavy rain pours down, with Sakamizu complaining about the weather. Sakamizu expresses his amazement that there's nobody left. Nico sagely notes that not a single hoodlum foresaw the rain or brought an umbrella, as they hate getting wet more than cats do. Aguri questions if they truly wanted the 100 million yen prize, given their lack of determination. Aguri looks up into the rain, disappointed. He muses that their treasure hunt felt more like a hiking trip and that he'd expected their greed to give them more courage, but he didn't even get to face a single one of them. Sakamizu asks Nico how he knew it was going to rain. Nico explains that he simply felt drowsy, and wiping his face was to regain concentration. He then mentions an old saying about a cat washing its face being a sign of rain. Nico continues his bizarre explanation, stating that many people get drowsy when the atmosphere pressure drops, and he has heightened his sensitivity to it through training. Aguri and Sakamizu are left utterly baffled by his logic. The group decides to use the cover of the rain to escape. As they follow a road toward a floodplain, hoping to be concealed from view, Sakamizu suddenly spots someone walking ahead of them. They see it's a mother and her young child. The boy complains that he's tired and his feet hurt. Sakamizu is relieved that it's just a mother and child, and Aguri suggests they simply walk past them. As they get closer, the child recognizes them, exclaiming that the woman is the popsicle vendor from the park. They realize she is pregnant. Sakamizu asks the woman why she isn't using her umbrella, noting it's bad for the baby to get soaked. Aguri, meanwhile, happily shows her the winning popsicle stick he got from her earlier. The woman quietly remarks that he's very lucky. Remarking that she is also lucky, the pregnant woman suddenly lunges at Aguri with a large knife, much to his and Sakamizu's shock. Aguri quickly dodges the attack, asking the woman if she's lost her mind. With a crazed expression, she shouts that she heard from the other bounty hunters that if she finds and kills him, she's guaranteed to receive the 100 million yen. Aguri leaps away, complaining that he's never fought a pregnant woman before and all he has is a popsicle stick. As the woman lunges again, he nervously calls out for Nico Tsukichi. While her child watches in terror, Sakamizu yells at a seemingly passive Nico to do something. Nico calmly stoops down and picks up the umbrella the woman dropped during her attack. Sakamizu yells for Nico to stop, reminding him that she's pregnant. The woman, driven by desperation, screams that with 100 million yen, she could pay off all of her husband's debt. As the woman charges with her knife raised, Nico calmly opens the tattered umbrella, shielding himself and a stunned Sakamizu from the rain. In a swift movement, Nico uses the hooked handle of the umbrella to catch the woman's wrist, expertly disarming her without causing any direct harm. Nico now holds the broken umbrella and the woman's knife, having neutralized the threat. The woman and Sakamizu look on in shock. The woman collapses to her knees in the rain, crying that it's no use. She sobs that this was her last chance to get money to live on and that she's forced her child to live a pitiful life. Nico coldly tells her that if she'd killed Aguri, she would have just ended up in prison. He continues harshly, stating that he couldn't care less about somebody else's kids and that she should think of all the other children who are killed in that world. Nico's demeanor becomes menacing as he looms over the terrified woman. He asks her if she thinks he won't get rough with her just because she's pregnant. As Nico threatens the woman, her young son bravely steps forward. In an attempt to protect his mother, he weakly stabs Nico's leg with a small object. The young boy, Keita, lets out a tearful cry, shouting, "Don't bully my mommy." His mother looks on, stunned by his sudden bravery. Aguri rubs his leg, complaining that the boy's attack actually hurt. Sakamizu looks on, shocked that he didn't see the attack coming from the child. The mother pulls her son into a tight embrace, telling him with a somber look that he isn't going to grow up to be a good adult, a reflection of her own desperate actions. Aguri tells the boy that out of all the lowlives who came after him, he had the most guts. He gives a stark warning, "Stick with your mom, or you'll end up like me." With that, they let the mother and child go on their way. As the group moves on, Sakamizu asks about Aguri's wound, which he dismisses as nothing more than a puppy bite. Nico reflects on the incident, surprised that the 100 million yen bounty would drive even ordinary people to assault. Aguri casually remarks that what the woman did was normal, as mothers are just like that. Nico then points ahead, announcing that he can see their destination. They arrive at an old, unkempt church under the light of a full moon. Nico notes that it appears to be in used private property. Sakamizu wants to press on, but Aguri seems to have found a new point of interest. While Nico advises they should proceed to the floodplain to hide, Aguri decides he wants to take a look inside the church first. Ignoring their protests, he tells them to follow him as he begins breaking a window. Aguri climbs through the broken window, prompting a comment from Sakamizu about his apparent experience with breaking and entering. Once inside, Aguri is surprised to find that the church is impeccably clean. Aguri spots a statue of a mother and child, but Sakamizu begins to panic, realizing that they are trespassing like burglars and that what they're doing is wrong. Wringing out his wet shirt, Aguri reveals his true motive for avoiding the floodplain. He can't swim and didn't want to cross the river. Sakamizu is flabbergasted by Aguri's normal weakness. He scolds him for being so brazen, but Aguri is unconcerned, stating he's tired and will just squat there for the night, ready to fight anyone who shows up. Suddenly, a door opens, and a young woman with glasses appears. She politely asks who they might be, then introduces herself as the daughter of the church's pastor. Busted, Sakamizu immediately panics and launches into a frantic, fabricated story. He claims they're a family running from debt collectors, desperately trying to appear as unsuspicious as possible. Sakamizu's ridiculous story continues as he haphazardly introduces his family. Aguri is his older brother, and Nico is his father, who he notes is so tired he could pass for a grandfather. To Sakamizu's immense relief, the girl, Miharu, completely buys his story. She expresses her sympathy and worries that his shirtless father will catch a cold in the rain. Miharu then notices the broken window and asks how it happened. As Sakamizu stammers for an explanation, Aguri and Nico realize the situation is bad, whispering that they need to act before she reports them. Just as the tension peaks, Miharu bursts into a hearty laugh, much to the confusion of Aguri and Sakamizu. Winking kindly, Miharu tells them it's wonderful if the church can help those in dire situations, and that they don't normally lock the door anyway. She offers them futons, towels, and the heater, promising to make breakfast for them in the morning. As she leaves, Miharu cheerfully asks the runaways to clean up the glass they broke. Sakamizu and Aguri are left speechless by her unconditional kindness. Sakamizu is overjoyed, proclaiming that the girl is a godsend. Aguri, however, watches her leave with a grim expression, calling her a God-sent idiot. Sakamizu argues that Miharu is an angel, but Aguri counters that soft-hearted people like her are just taken advantage of and end up worn out. As they watch her go, Nico quietly observes that the girl looks like Aguri's mother. Hearing Nico's observation, Aguri makes a decision. He announces to a shocked Nico and Sakamizu that they are going to take the church from the girl and her family to use as their new safe house. Aguri stands confidently, declaring that he has found his castle. He relishes the irony of a villain scheming in a place closest to God and proclaims they will turn the church into the king of the ants' fortress. The next morning, Sakamizu is seen bathing in the nearby river, joyfully splashing around and exclaiming how amazing the water feels. Sakamizu continues to enjoy his bath, commenting on how great even a river feels. He turns to Aguri, who is huddled at the water's edge, and asks what he's doing. Aguri shouts back that he can't swim and is afraid of getting swept away. Sakamizu mocks him, asking how someone so scared of water plans to defeat the entire Rikudo conglomerate. Aguri retorts that they don't need to fight everyone. They just need to find the top brass, crush them like ants, and claim victory. Horrified by Aguri's lack of a sense of danger, Sakamizu thinks to himself that they should just follow Nico's original advice and flee across the bridge to Kanagawa as fast as they can. Sakamizu sarcastically asks if they should just run all the way to the moon. Aguri, with a grin, tells him to cheer up and to think about the moon. Aguri shares his philosophy, comparing their enemy to the moon. He muses that for countless years, it has watched over humanity, probably daring someone to challenge it. The only way to win is to actually go there and step on it. Back at the church, Nico dries himself off. He reflects that Aguri's ideas are creative, just like his father's, but using the church as a hideout is too risky. He decides he must protect him, even if it costs him his life. As Nico contemplates, his intricate back tattoo of the goddess Cannon holding a baby wrapped by a dragon is revealed. He reaffirms his duty to protect his master, just as Maharu walks in and gasps in shock. Startled, Nico quickly covers up, apologizing for the unpleasant sight and explaining he was lost in thought. Maharu, however, is fixated on his back, pointing in shock. To Nico's surprise, Maharu's shock turns to joy. Crying tears of happiness, she mistakenly assumes his tattoo is a sign of faith, slapping his back and exclaiming that he must be a fellow Christian. Maharu admires the tattoo, calling it beautiful and comparing it to stained glass. She asks if it's the Virgin Mary, but Nico clarifies that it's a depiction of the goddess Cannon. Maharu explains that her father, the priest, has been sick for a long time, so she has to work to support them and maintain the chapel. She then proceeds to hang a coat on the statue of Jesus on the cross. After finishing her task, Maharu cheerfully wishes a shirtless and slightly confused Nico a good night before leaving. The next morning, Sakamizu bursts through the door, yelling for Aguri about a problem. Meanwhile, Aguri is eating the breakfast Maharu prepared, complaining that the idiot girl put cheese in his rice balls. Sakamizu reveals the problem. A photo of Aguri shampooing his hair in the river that morning has been posted online. Looking outside, they see that even more bounty hunters have gathered near the bridge than the day before. They identify the source of the leaks, a Twitter user named @iTroll, who has been constantly stalking them and posting their location, urging others to hunt them down for the bounty. Sakamizu panics, asking what they should do since they're being hunted. Aguri calmly states a new plan. They won't search for the bounty hunters. Instead, they'll find the stalker and take him out from a good observation post. Their chosen observation post is a small, local ramen shop situated near the park, buzzing with various shady-looking characters. Inside the bustling shop, a rude customer pounds the table, demanding his ramen. The owner, a woman looking tired but resolute, says it's coming while sighing about her unchanging pay despite the crowd. The shop owner is none other than the popsicle vendor from the previous night. While Aguri and Sakamizu eat, she quietly continues chopping onions, muttering a threat to the rude customer about the knife she's holding. The woman is still thinking about the 100 million yen bounty. Aguri tells Sakamizu they'll be staying for a while and instructs him to help out, jokingly adding a reminder to spit in the rude customer's ramen. Just then, the woman's son, Keita, appears. He fidgets nervously before bowing deeply to Aguri and apologizing for his actions the day before. Aguri recognizes him as the boy who stabbed him in the leg. Aguri pats the boy on the head, amused, and calls him the first delinquent to ever attack him and then apologize. He then asks Keita to play detective for him, and the boy agrees. Keita tells Aguri that while he was eating ice cream on a bench the previous day, he saw a creep taking pictures of him, and he points to the bench in question just outside the shop. Aguri realizes the angle of the photo on Twitter matches the spot Keita indicated. He tasks his new detective with checking the area for any clues the culprit might have left behind. Keita, excited, exclaims, "Got it!" The scene shows Maharu and Nico standing outside the picturesque church. It's a lovely building surrounded by nature. Maharu explains to Nico that back when her father was healthy, the church was popular with many believers. Now, however, it has been forgotten and is seen as a haunted house. Despite this, she cheerfully points out that swallows and other forest animals still come to play. Maharu continues, saying that while it's wonderful to have so much nature around, there is one problem that she has. She explains that a massive hornet's nest has appeared in the forest behind the church, and she's too scared to go near it as they rush at her when she gets close. Nico understands and calmly states that he will handle their extermination. Miharu frantically tries to stop Nico, worried he'll get seriously hurt. She insists that the hornets are just trying their best to survive. Nico picks up 2 badminton rackets that were left nearby, saying it's the least he can do for her hospitality. He argues that for the sake of the children who might want to play there again, they can't leave the nest be. He then heads off for what he calls a little game. As Nico walks away, a sensor on a lamppost beeps. Maharu's concerned voice can be heard, calling Nico's actions reckless and dangerous. The scene cuts to the stalker, at iTroll, watching this unfold on his laptop. He's enraged to see an old dude with Maharu. Spread around his desk are numerous photos of her, revealing his obsessive fixation as he calls her his divine goddess. In a fit of jealous rage, the stalker slams his desk, screaming for Nico to get away from his Maharu. He's also frustrated that Aguri's group hasn't just run away from the park yet, despite him rounding up all the bounty hunters. Suddenly, the stalker's surveillance feed from near the ramen shop goes dark. He realizes something is blocking the lens and curses, assuming some retard threw trash there. Annoyed, he decides to go check it out himself. Meanwhile, Nico stands calmly in the forest, surrounded by giant hornets, armed only with the 2 badminton rackets. He finds it convenient that the rackets seem specially designed for taking care of wasps. The massive hornets begin their attack, swarming towards Nico from all directions. Nico begins his counterattack, expertly swatting the hornets out of the air. He internally monologues that while hornets are aggressive and coordinated, they're not the true rulers of the insect world. Continuing his lesson on entomology, Nico notes that hornets build their nests in treetops specifically to avoid being attacked by ants. He declares that if mankind is the king of vertebrates, then the ant is the ruler of all invertebrates. With a powerful swing of his racket, Nico roars that those who don't have their feet planted firmly on the ground are weak. His mission accomplished, Nico lands gracefully on a tree branch as the 2 halves of the destroyed hornet's nest fall to the ground. Adjusting his glasses, Nico declares that he needs to eliminate one more nest of dangerous creatures. The scene shifts to the bicycle lot, where Nico is seen tampering with a wheel while the stalker complains about the useless bounty hunters. The stalker, now revealed to be in a wheelchair, angrily pushes through the crowd of bounty hunters, yelling at them to disappear and calling them useless lowlifes. Arriving at his hidden camera setup in a bicycle basket, the stalker sees that nothing is blocking the lens. He's confused, then notices a weird stick, Aguri's winning popsicle stick, stuck onto the can. A simple day at the park turns into a stroke of luck for some, but a nightmare for others. Aguri Shiro, with a child on his back, holds an ice cream stick that spells jackpot. But the real prize? Catching a rat red-handed. Meet Kobachi, a man whose eye patch isn't for an injury, but for a much more sinister purpose. Aguri doesn't waste time with pleasantries. One swift, brutal kick sent Kobachi and his fake handicap flying. The wanted scumbag with a 100 million yen bounty just claimed his first victim of the day. Even as he pushes the injured creep in a wheelchair, Aguri mocks the situation. He knows exactly who he is, a man the world fears, casually strolling through a park while the person he's helping is paralyzed by pure terror. The evidence is disgusting. A hidden camera rigged inside a soda can. Kobachi tries to play the victim, claiming he has a leg problem, but Aguri knows a predator when he sees one. The question is, who is he watching? The truth comes out. The church and the priest's daughter, Maharu. Kobachi's little hobby has cost him dearly. Aguri's gaze is cold. He has no patience for those who stalk the innocent under the guise of anonymity. In a desperate bid for freedom, Kobachi bolts. He knows this park like the back of his hand and disappears into the thick woods, thinking he's outrun the monster behind him. But Aguri is just getting started. Kobachi reaches his secret sanctuary, a hidden tent deep in the forest. Panting and frantic, he thinks he's safe. He peels back the entrance, expecting comfort among his disturbing collection of photos. But something is very wrong. The sanctuary is now a trap. Right in the middle of his hideout sits a massive, buzzing wasp nest. Aguri didn't just follow him. He prepared a special welcome for the stalker. A blood-curdling scream echoes through the forest as the wasps descend. Nearby, Aguri and the child listen with grim satisfaction. The hunter has become the prey in the most painful way possible. Meanwhile, at the local church, the elderly Chukichi discovers another one of Kobachi's bird nests. A sophisticated security camera disguised as a natural habitat, pointed right at the heart of their home. Miharu is shocked by the revelation. Chukichi explains that whoever installed this must have been watching from nearby. Despite the creepiness, Miharu's innocence shines through, until she realizes she's late for her part-time job and dashes off. Back with Aguri, he's joined by Sakamizu. They have the stalker's base, and Aguri is ready to turn the tables. He sends the kid away. Things are about to get wild in a way no child should see. The screams move from the forest to a decrepit public restroom. Kobachi is cornered, his pleas for mercy falling on deaf ears. There's nowhere left to run. Inside the filthy stalls, Aguri shows no mercy, grinding his boot into Kobachi's head. He orders Sakamizu to break the man's shoulder. This isn't just punishment, it's the removal of a nuisance. Aguri's plan is cruel. Leave him in this haunted, sweltering spot until he rots. But Kobachi, desperate and pathetic, makes a wild claim. He was only trying to protect Maharu from the real punks. The irony isn't lost on Aguri. A creep dying while checking out a girl's skirt? It's a fitting end. But Kobachi's fear is real as he begs for his life, promising he never targeted Aguri. Aguri watches with a predatory grin as Kobachi grovels. The famous troublemaker just happened to show up on camera, and now his world is collapsing. The power dynamic is absolute. Sakamizu looks on as the interrogation continues. They both knew it would end like this. Kobachi is nothing but a bug to be crushed, but he might still have one useful piece of information. Tears and snot stream down Kobachi's face as he insists he wasn't just keeping tabs on them. He mentions a sketchy guy who has been stalking Maharu for a long time. A predator recognizing another predator. Aguri's patience is gone. He doesn't trust a word from a man who lives in the shadows. To him, Kobachi is a pain that needs to be erased. He needs a solid base, and he won't let a weakling compromise his footing. I can respect bad guys, but I absolutely despise those who are weak. Aguri's philosophy is simple and brutal. He challenges Kobachi. If he really wants to protect that woman, he should stop being a coward and try to kill him. Aguri reveals a photo from Kobachi's own stash, a picture of Maharu and him at the same school. He gives the stalker a final, terrifying ultimatum. Settle this now, or he'll take her straight to that wasp-filled tent. In Kobachi's eyes, the image of Maharu is all that remains. His obsession has led him to this point of no return. The tears won't save him from the choice he has to make. Aguri and Sakamizu stride out into the sunlight, leaving the broken stalker to rot in his own filth. To Aguri, the park is now a secured fortress under his watchful eye, a place where he's the one holding the leash. But even a king can't see every threat approaching his gates from the outside. Miles away from the park's twisted justice, Mahara-chan is in a frantic race against the clock. She sprints toward the station, completely oblivious to the predator looming in the background. She thinks she's just late for work, but she's actually running straight into the path of a monster waiting at the very gate she's trying to reach. At the station, the tension is thick as a mountain of a man tries to force his way through the gates. Nukuhara Yuichi, the serial killer the police are hunting, is oblivious to the rules. The station attendant panics, shouting for a ticket, but Nukuhara doesn't care about bureaucracy. He's driven by something far more primitive. A chilling close-up reveals the true horror of Nukuhara's obsession. His eyes are hollow, his sweat-slicked face twisted as he mutters a name under his breath. Manhwa-chan. The hunt has begun, and his target is already in his sights. Back at the hidden tent, Aguri, Shiro, and Sakamizu have successfully hijacked the stalker surveillance system. Aguri clicks through the feeds with predatory curiosity, realizing that Kobachi's perverse setup is actually a tactical goldmine for them. On the monitor, a bald thug is shown wandering the riverbank, looking for the very man currently watching him. Aguri smiles. The hunters have no idea they are being live-streamed by their prey. Aguri is thoroughly impressed by the reach of the cameras. He can see every corner of the giant park from this cramped hideout. Sakamizu, however, remains grounded, warning Aguri that even with this tech, the church and their position aren't safe for long as the crowd of enemies keeps growing. Aguri's arrogance is in full display as he jokes about his situation. With this many people after me, I feel like a total movie star, he laughs. Sakamizu feels more like a hamster being chased by cats. But Aguri is just satisfied they've cleared out the local creeps for now. The bravado takes a slight hit when Aguri realizes he still reeks from the encounter in the public restroom. He sniffs his tank top with a grimace, the stench of that place lingering on him like a bad omen. Sakamizu leans in for a sniff, confirming that his boss does indeed smell pretty bad. Aguri laments that he can't even go take a proper bath with the river teeming with thugs looking for his head. In the background, someone is approaching. The tent flap swings open to reveal the ever-composed Shukichi. Aguri pulls his shirt back down, but it's too late for modesty. The butler enters with the professional detachment of a man who has seen much worse than his master sniffing his own armpits. Aguri panics for a second, shouting that Shukichi has it all wrong, but the butler isn't here to judge hygiene. He's here with an update. Shukichi's cold professionalism is a sharp contrast to the chaotic energy of the two younger men. With a soft clink, a set of keys is dropped onto the floor. Shukichi has been busy while Aguri was playing with cameras and stalking stalkers. He secured their next move. A car. Aguri and Sakamizu are stunned. Shukichi calmly explains that he has prepared a vehicle for their escape tonight. They'll be departing the park under the cover of darkness. Shukichi reveals his scouting work. Near the park is a small zoo, a place often overlooked by the thugs and police currently encircling the area. He found something there that fits their needs perfectly. At the outskirts of the zoo, an old pickup truck sits abandoned. Shukichi borrowed the key from the management office, feeling a bit like a burglar in the process. It's an inconspicuous vehicle, perfect for a quiet exit. They huddle over a map to discuss the escape plan. The plan is to sneak into the zoo around midnight and bypass the checkpoints using an entrance reserved for authorized personnel. Sakamizu is excited. A car means they can get far away from this nightmare. But Aguri has other ideas. He tosses the key back with a dismissive shum. He's not leaving yet. He likes the park, and he likes the church. He refuses to run like a scared rat from the Rikudo conglomerate. Aguri underestimates his enemies, calling the Rikudo heirs weak, spoiled brats who only inherited money. Shukichi disagrees sharply, warning him that the heirs are not an opponent to take lightly. Children inherit more than just wealth from their parents. they inherit their darkness. The scene shifts to the eldest son, Lord Rikudo Ryutaro. He's the embodiment of the vanity and power Tsukichi warned about. As he combs his hair, he prepares for a meeting that will cement his inauguration as president. His target today? The infamous Captain Krishna. Kitsune, his loyal bodyguard, provides the background. Krishna isn't just a captain. He's a former pirate leader who now controls the Indonesian economy from the shadows. A king of ants in his own right. The meeting is set at the Sankai Seaside Hotel. Inside the hotel, a beautiful woman lies motionless, a petal in her mouth. She is the centerpiece of a grotesque tradition, serving as a human plate for the meeting of two monsters. Captain Krishna, a small, bloated man with a face like a gargoyle, is already stuffing his face. He's in the middle of his meal, Nyote Mori, and he doesn't seem the least bit bothered by the company. Ryutaro enters with casual grace, welcoming the captain to Japan. He's unfazed by the sight of Krishna eating off a woman's body. In the world of the kings of ants, this is just another Tuesday. The banter is sharp and filled with hidden threats. Krishna jokes that he'd be too worried about poison to eat at Ryutaro's hotel normally. Ryutaro counters that he could have found him an even better place through the Rikudo conglomerate, if only he'd asked. Krishna relishes the meal with a grotesque glee, joking that he's devouring Japan itself. The practice of Nyotamori stands as a chillingly perfect metaphor for these men. Predators who view human lives as nothing more than disposable platters, meant to be consumed and discarded at their whim. The conversation eventually turns to the past, as Krishna asks after Tsukichi, the bearded strategist who once shadowed Ryutaro. Ryutaro dismissively claims the old man retired due to age, unaware that his former advisor is currently plotting his downfall. But as the talk of legacy lingers, Krishna's mind drifts back to the man who truly built this empire. Captain Krishna reminisces about his meeting with Ryutaro's father, Kisaburo, 20 years ago. Even then, the world of the kings of ants was a dance of death and power. Beside him stands a silent, masked figure, a remnant of those violent times. Hey, show them. With a chilling command, Krishna invites his guest to witness a nightmare. The masked man begins to peel back his covering, revealing something far from human. Ryutaro and Kitsune watch with cold, unwavering eyes. The mask falls away to reveal a grotesque, biological horror, a mouth stretched wide, dripping with saliva, and a long, prehensile tongue. This is no ordinary bodyguard. It's a living weapon designed to terrify. Da-da! Krishna chirps, delighted by the monstrosity. Suddenly, the jest turns into a deadly strike. The creature lunges forward with predatory speed. A woman nearby screams in terror as the banquet of luxury is shattered by an assassination attempt. Krishna's gift has teeth. In a flash of motion, a hand snatches at the air. The long tongue of the beast flickers out, aimed directly at Ryutaro. The kings are testing each other, measuring the strength of their respective shields. But Ryutaro doesn't even flinch. He knows Kitsune is faster. The female bodyguard moves with a blur of lethal grace. Her suits clad form a stark contrast to the chaotic violence erupting in the room. Thwack! Kitsune delivers a devastating kick that snaps the assassin's head back with bone-shattering force. Krishna watches with a mix of surprise and twisted admiration. The game is over before it even truly began. The impact is absolute. Kitsune's strike is so powerful that it leaves the assassin's jaw shattered and his inhuman features obliterated. Ryutaro remains calm, his eyes fixed on Krishna, waiting for the apology he knows is coming. A single brutal kick has ended the threat. The assassin's body crumples as blood splatters across the elegant setting. Kitsune stands composed, her mission accomplished without a single wasted movement. The kings have seen enough. Krishna breaks into a hollow laugh, clapping his hands as if he's just witnessed a circus act. Oh, 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 quite pleasant, he says, casually apologizing for his rudeness. To men like him, a life is just a pawn in a larger game of influence. The small, grotesque man acknowledges Ryutaro as the rightful heir to the conglomerate. He admits he's heard rumors about Ryutaro's bloodline, but in his world, only results matter. Ryutaro accepts the acknowledgement with a slight, arrogant nod. The tension hasn't fully dissipated as they move to the next phase, negotiation. Krishna offers a hand, promising to maintain the same friendly relations he had with Ryutaro's father. But Ryutaro knows friendly is a relative term. Suddenly, the tables turn. Ryutaro isn't just negotiating, he's dominating. He sends Krishna flying with a display of strength that matches his political reach. The time for jests is over. It's time for a new contract. Ryutaro stands over the groveling Krishna, his foot literally pressing down on the negotiation. He demands a lower fee, 4.4 billion yen annually for security in Indonesian waters. He's rewriting the rules of their partnership with brute force. The bidding war for human lives continues. 5.5 billion for 0.6? Ryutaro is relentless. Kitsune watches her master's masterclass in intimidation, her face a mask of cold professionalism as they squeeze every possible drop of value from the captain. They settle on 5 billion. Ryutaro leaves the room with a smirk, Kitsune following closely behind. Krishna is left in a heap on the floor, panting and broken. The king of Japan has asserted his dominance over the king of Indonesia. Speeding away in their luxury car, Ryutaro and Kitsune discuss the encounter. He knows that not all kings of ants are as easy to handle as Krishna. A trust relationship has been established, but it's built on a foundation of fear and mutual utility. Ryutaro's thoughts drift to Aguri Shiro. He knows that if the factions find out about Shiro's existence, they'll use him as a pawn to undermine his own authority. Being a successor without the bloodline makes his position fragile, despite his current power. He dismisses Chukichi as a decrepit fool who thinks he can still make a difference. To Ryutaro, the old guard is just an obstacle to his vision of absolute control. He's ready to burn everything down to stay at the top. Kitsune warns him that Aguri Shiro isn't just a simple troublemaker. She senses the danger lurking in the park. But Ryutaro has a different problem on his mind, a cleanup operation at a hotel belonging to a rival group. He needs a diversion. He picks up his phone and makes a call that will set the entire city on edge. Put me on with Commissioner Kirijawa. It's time to cash in a favor and throw a bone to the police to cover his tracks. At the police headquarters, Commissioner Kirijawa is all smiles, eager to please the man who funds his department. Ryutaro offers a gift, information on the culprit of an unresolved case. The commissioner's eyes light up at the prospect of an easy win. Ryutaro brings up a case from 10 years ago, a woman's corpse dumped in a park toilet. He has plenty of information on the wicked ants lurking in the city, but this particular one is perfect for his needs. The trap is being set. Tamagashira Natural Park. With a single, calculated tip, Ryutaro points the police directly toward his rivals. By sharing the location of the hideout, he's not just sacrificing Aguri and Sakamizu. He's framing them for a legacy of crimes they never touched. To a king of ants, these troublemakers are just insects about to be crushed by the machinery of the law. Deep within that same park, Sakamizu is miles away from sensing the danger. He spends the stagnant hours lounging in the hideout, mindlessly sifting through the ocean of photos left by the stalker. It's so boring with nothing happening, he mutters, flipping through the faces of the innocent, until he stumbles upon a single, jarring image that makes the boredom vanish. In the quiet of the hideout, Sakamizu sifts through Kobachi's collection of photos. Most are of the adorable Maharu, but one image makes his skin crawl. Ugh! Why does that creep have a photo of such an ugly man? Little does he know, he's looking at the face of a nightmare soon to be unleashed. Miles away, in a room that smells of decay and cheap instant noodles, Nukuhara Yuichi is having his last meal in peace. He slurps his ramen with the mindless focus of an animal, surrounded by the filth of his own making. This is the ugly man from the photo, a serial killer hiding in plain sight. The TV blares in the background, reporting on the glamorous premiere of Tropical Skier. The world outside is obsessed with the movie's lead, Kisarazu Yuta, but inside this room, the only reality is the mountain of trash and the dark thoughts of a madman. On the screen, fans are screaming for their idol, the Steel Prince Yuta-kun. The contrast is jarring. The bright lights of celebrity against the dim, grimy apartment where a monster sits watching, his eyes reflecting a world he despises. Nukuhara laughs to himself, a dry, wheezing sound. He mocks the excitement of the women on TV, comparing their cheers to the screams of monkeys. To him, the thin veneer of civilization is just a joke waiting to be broken. "Are you listening?" he asks, turning to the corner of the room. There, hidden among the garbage, is his newest bua, a woman, bound and gagged, struggling against her restraints. Her eyes are filled with a terror that only Nukuhara finds amusing. He has stripped her of her humanity, turning her into just another project in his twisted workshop. He mocks her inability to speak, laughing at her muffled cries. To a predator like Nukuhara, the language of pain is the only one that matters. He's about to enjoy his evening, but fate has other plans. A sudden, violent bang shakes the door. Nukuhara stops, noodle still hanging from his mouth. He taunts his captive one last time, suggesting she's getting too excited. But the banging continues, louder and more insistent. The world is finally knocking on his door. "Yees?" he answers, scratching his head with feigned innocence. He opens the door, just a crack, his small, beady eyes blinking at the sudden light. He knows what's coming, but he wants to play the game until the very end. The police don't play along. A badge is shoved into his face. "Nukuhara Yuichi, we'd like you to come with us to the police station." The officer's eyes are sharp, recognizing the face of the monster they've been hunting for years. Nukuhara just blinks. "Which one?" he asks, the ultimate insult to the lives he's taken. Violence erupts in a heartbeat. Instead of surrendering, Nukuhara surges forward with the power of a cornered beast. He slams into the officers, throwing one right over the balcony railing. The sudden, brutal counterattack catches the cops completely off guard. He doesn't stop. Nukuhara barrels back into the room, trampling over his own trash as the police scramble to recover. He ran into the back of the room. They shout, but the killer is already one step ahead, his mind set on escape at any cost. With a roar of "Ho!" Nukuhara shatters the window and leaps from the balcony. He's like a heavy stone falling through the air, crashing into the bushes below. Behind him, the police find his victim, calling for an ambulance as they realize the monster has fled into the woods. While the killer flees, another tragedy is unfolding at the bottom of a dark, filthy pit. Kobachi, the stalker Aguri discarded like trash, is struggling to breathe. The heat and the stench are unbearable. "Am I going to die here?" he whimpers, his spirit broken by the very filth he used to hide in. His life flashes before his eyes. A pitiful existence spent peeking from the cracks in the darkness. He sees the mouth of the pit above him, a cruel reminder of the world he can no longer reach. Tears mix with the grime on his face as he prepares for the end. Memories of school flood back. The time when he first saw Maharu. Even then, he was the boy in the shadows, watched from afar as she laughed with her friends. She was the light, and he was the parasite that fed on it. But the shadows didn't hide him well enough. His classmates knew. They saw the creep pretending to sleep while spying on Maharu. The bullying was constant, a cycle of humiliation that fueled his twisted obsessions. "Joe, Kobachi's peaking again today." The bullying reached a breaking point. One boy, fed up with Kobachi's behavior, decided to teach him a lesson. He held a ruler, a sadistic grin on his face. "I'll sneak up and shove this ruler into the crack." A prank meant to humiliate, but it went horribly wrong. A sickening sound and a scream that shattered the classroom's peace. The ruler didn't just poke him, it stabbed deep into his eye. Blood splattered everywhere as the bullies realized they'd gone too far. "Who the hell stabbed someone that hard?" They shouted in panic as Kobachi's world turned into a red haze of agony. Through the pain and the blood, he saw her, Maharu didn't run away. She held him, her voice a soothing balm against the chaos. It's okay, don't be scared. In that moment of trauma, his obsession was sealed forever. She saved him, and in his broken mind, that meant she belonged to him. Back in the present, Kobachi sees her face again in his mind. But reality is much harsher. He's still in the pit, still alone. Until he hears something, a faint sound from above. Is it his imagination, or is someone finally there? TMP. TMP. Footsteps echo around the concrete walls of the toilet. Kobachi's heart races. What? He gasps, looking up at the swing of the door. Someone is here. Hope, fragile and desperate, flickers in his chest. Help me. Don't run away. He screams with every ounce of strength left in his lungs. He doesn't care about the embarrassment anymore. He just wants to see the light again, to see Maharu-chan again. He splashes in the filth, begging for a savior. Above the pit, a massive shadow looms. Nukuhara Yuichi, gasping from his frantic escape, has found his sanctuary in the derelict park toilet. But as he leans over the edge, he hears something unexpected. Faint, wheezing cries for help coming from the darkness below. His predatory instincts flare up as he stares into the abyss. No longer just a fugitive, but a predator who has sensed a new kind of prey. Nukuhara stares down at the pathetic, filthy creature trapped in the pit. I escaped. He wheezes, the adrenaline of the chase still coursing through him as he looks over the edge. But the silence is broken by a splash from the bottom. Something. I think I heard something. The serial killer and the stalker have finally met in the belly of the park, a convergence of two different evils that spells double the nightmare for Maharu. Kobachi looks up from the filth, his one good eye widening in a fresh wave of terror. No way. Why him of all people? He gasps, frozen by the sight of the massive, sweating silhouette looming over him. In the darkness of the pit, he wonders if he's seeing a ghost or a monster even more depraved than himself. Regardless, his cries for help have only attracted the worst kind of predator. Nukuhara stares into the hole, a twisted sense of nostalgia washing over him. This is the very toilet where he dumped a body 10 years ago. He knows the police are closing in and that the death penalty is certain for his countless crimes. With his guard down and nothing left to lose, a final, sickening desire takes hold of him. If he's going to die, he wants one last meal to savor. A horrific grin spreads across Nukuhara's face as he whispers her name. Miho-chan. To him, she isn't a person, but top-tier lamb, the perfect centerpiece for his final atrocity. I'll eat her. I'm going to rape and eat her. With this chilling vow, the serial killer seals his fate and hers, setting the stage for a bloodbath in Tamagashira Park that will leave no one unchanged. A hand holds up a photograph of Nukuhara Yuichi. He's a dangerous fugitive wanted for murder and body disposal, and the police are desperate to find him. Tamagashira Park is swarming with police. They're going from stall to stall, warning everyone that a killer might be hiding nearby. The shopkeeper looks worried as she listens to the officer's warning. While the police search outside, Nico Tsukichi and Aguri Shiro are hidden in the most unlikely place, inside a kitchen cabinet. Despite the tension, Aguri is calmly devouring a bowl of steaming ramen, complaining about the heat. The park is chaos, with police cars and officers everywhere. Right under their noses, Aguri, Nico Tsukichi, and a small boy are squeezed into their hiding spot. Aguri doesn't seem to care about the risk. His only concern is how gross he feels. Aguri peels off his sweaty shirt, desperate for a bath. He's reached his limit with being sticky and gross, begging Annie for a place to wash up tonight. The police look right into the stall, asking if anyone else is there. The shopkeeper denies it, while just inches away, Aguri and his companions hold their breath in their cramped, secret compartment. Elsewhere, Kobachi is lying in his messy room, surrounded by photos. He's using his surveillance system to monitor Nukuhara Yuichi, who is currently hiding in a public toilet. Nukuhara Yuichi is at his observation post, looking out from the toilet. He's obsessed with a girl named Miharu, and today, He plans to make her his next meal. The monster's face is twisted with sick anticipation. He has Miharu's entire schedule memorized and knows she'll be passing by this very spot on her way home. Miharu walks past the park, completely unaware of the eyes watching her. Nukuhara sees his chance and prepares to pounce, but he's had missed opportunities before. Just as Nukuhara lunges at her, a blinding light hits him. He's stunned, shielding his eyes from the sudden glare as his target escapes. It's Kobachi. The one-eyed boy has been watching, showing up at the worst possible moment for the killer. Nukuhara is forced to run away, fearing the police will be called. But things take a turn for the worse for Kobachi. In a struggle, he falls right into the toilet pit. Nukuhara realizes what's happened and laughs, realizing he's now free to hunt his prey. Kobachi panics, realizing that Nukuhara is on a whole different level of obsession. He's trapped in a hole of filth while Miharu is in grave danger. In his mind, Aguri Shiro's voice mocks him. If he really wants to protect her, he needs to stop being a coward and find the guts to stand up and do something. Kobachi looks up from the deep, dark hole. He can't reach Miharu from here, but as he sees the waste piling up, a desperate idea starts to form. Miharu is rushing home, worried about her father who is waiting for her. Meanwhile, back at the toilet, Nukuhara hears her voice approaching and prepares to strike. Suddenly, Nukuhara hears a strange, splashing sound from the pit below. His mind starts to wander to dark places. Could it be a ghost? Nukuhara remembers the woman he dismembered and threw into this very hole. Rumors say her missing hands appear from the depths to drag people down. He tries to laugh it off, but his fear is growing. Then, a hand reaches out. Kobachi, covered in filth, is determined to take a shot at the spotlight, even if he's covered in fucking shit. It's a one-on-one stalker battle. Kobachi is ready to face the freak, lunging as the fragile platform beneath them groans. With all his strength, Kobachi reaches out, pleading for wings to fly just this once so he can deliver his feelings and protect the girl he's obsessed with. Nukuhara screams as a filthy hand grabs his leg. He's absolutely terrified, convinced that the ghost of his victim has come to drag him into the abyss. Miharu hears the frantic screaming coming from the restroom and assumes someone's just having a very bad time in there. She hurries home, leaving Nukuhara trapped in a nightmare he can't explain. Nukuhara is paralyzed by fear, but the ghost grabbing his leg is very real. Kobachi has finally found the courage to act, and he's about to turn this messy, ridiculous situation into a full-blown confrontation. Trapped in the toilet pit, Kobachi screams in a fury, telling Nukuhara Yuichi to stay away from Miharu. But the killer just looks down with a mocking grin, calling him a perverted scumbag who should be the last one talking. A sudden splash of filth hits Nukuhara Yuichi's face, a disgusting retaliation from below. Meanwhile, at a surveillance monitor with a distinctive eye logo, Sakamizu watches the scene unfold, his expression one of pure horror and disbelief. Despite the grime on his face, Nukuhara Yuichi breaks into a depraved laugh. He has no intention of killing Kobachi right now. He has more important things to do, like catching up with Miharu before she can escape his grasp. Kobachi watches helplessly as Nukuhara Yuichi prepares to leave, the killer already mapping out his route to Miharu's home. He knows she has a better-than father, making her an easy target for his sick desires. Nukuhara Yuichi mocks Kobachi one last time, telling him he's useless just sitting there covered in filth before heading out. Kobachi can only reach out in a desperate, futile attempt to stop the monster from leaving. The scene shifts to a quiet house marked Mikuni. Inside, the atmosphere is heavy with religious devotion, a crucifix hanging on the wall as a silent prayer begins. Dear God, hear me. Miharu brings a bowl of egg soup to her better-than father, Cha Kwame Haru, Lin Muc, a devout man who sees his illness as a trial from above. He refuses the food, declaring that his survival is solely by God's will and his faith remains unbroken. Miharu pleads with her father to go to the hospital, her heart breaking for him. But the priest remains firm. He believes that as long as his faith is true, he doesn't need a doctor to cure him. Viewing his disease as a divine test. The priest reflects on the biblical story of Job, a man who lost everything and suffered terrible diseases, but never lost his faith. He believes that God deliberately gives suffering as a test of the righteous. A close-up of the crucifix emphasizes the priest's total reliance on his faith. He is convinced that if they pray, God will undoubtedly save them, whether it's a sick body or a wicked heart. The quiet prayer is interrupted as the bedroom door slides open. Nukuhara Yuchi looms in the doorway, a terrifying presence standing right behind the unsuspecting Maharu as she finishes her men. Without warning, Nukuhara Yuchi attacks. He strikes Maharu, sending her bowl of soup flying as she cries out in pain. She's caught completely off guard, her glasses slipping as she's knocked to the floor. Maharu collapses to the ground, huffing in pain. Her father, helpless in his bed, cries out her name in terror as Nukuhara Yuichi strides into the room with a sickening smile. He tells the intruder to take anything he wants, thinking it's just a simple robbery. The priest tries to appeal to the monster's soul, begging him to listen to his words before committing any sin. But Nukuhara Yuichi has no time for preaching. He strikes the old man, blood spraying as he declares he's in a hurry. Nukuhara Yuichi's true intentions are revealed, and they're far worse than robbery. He wants Maharu. He looks back at the priest with a depraved grin, describing the atrocities he plans to commit against his daughter until he's satisfied. The killer declares that Maharu is as good as dead. He slams the door shut, warning the priest not to call for help, threatening to kill her the second he hears even a single footstep. Back at his surveillance post, Sakamizu realizes with horror that Maharu is in grave danger. He watches the live feed from the restroom building, his eyes wide with panic as the situation spirals out of control. Kobachi, still in the pit, frantically tells Sakamizu about a notebook he left in his tent containing all of Maharu's information. Sakamizu is skeptical, claiming he's already checked the place and found nothing of the sort. A nightmare unfolds as Nukuhara Yuichi has Maharu pinned on the bed, her clothes partially removed. He sniffs her like a predator, savoring the aroma of what he calls his final feast of a homegrown victim. Just as the killer is about to begin his assault, the bathroom door slides open with a loud foo. To his absolute shock, instead of a defenseless girl, Aguri Shiro is sitting calmly in the bathtub, soaking in the steam. The two men stare at each other in total disbelief. Nukuhara Yuichi's jaw drops as he sees the intruder, while Aguri Shiro looks back with a neutral, almost bored expression. What? Are the only words they can manage. Aguri Shiro is holding the very notebook Kobachi was worried about, the one with the eye logo. He looks at it and then at Nukuhara, finding it weird that this grotesque man is supposed to be the better-than-father described in the notes. Aguri tries to explain himself, saying he just snuck in to use the bath after hearing the priest's home didn't have one. Nukuhara Yuichi is losing his mind, convinced Maharu has been bringing dude to her house while acting pure. Aguri realization that this fat guy is definitely not her father. Aguri Shiro cuts the conversation short with explosive violence. Lunging from a bath, he delivers a heavy, water-spraying kick that sends Nukuhara Yuichi stumbling back, coldly asserting that a piece of trash like him could never be the girl's father. He continues the relentless assault, his strikes landing with a resounding smack that fills the small room. Aguri looms over the killer with chilling indifference, demanding to know who this monster thinks he is while the air becomes thick with blood and bath water. Aguri Shiro doesn't hold back, delivering a crushing blow that sends Nukuhara Yuichi reeling. He mocks the killer, telling him not to underestimate the power of superior genetics as he easily overpowers him. Without giving him a chance to recover, Aguri Shiro grabs Nukuhara Yuichi by the head and slams him face-first into the bath water. He's furious that this filthy monster ruined his relaxing bath mood with his presence. Aguri Shiro holds the killer underwater, ignoring his desperate gurgling. He calls him a ham beast and makes it clear that if that ugly face comes out of the water, it's punch time again. These are Aguri's rules. The violence is interrupted by a weak voice. Cha Kwa Maharu, Lin Muc, Maharu's better-than-father, pleads with the young man to stop. He believes that answering violence with more violence isn't the way and asks Aguri Shiro to let the man go. Aguri Shiro is skeptical, pointing out that Nukuhara Yuichi is the same killer the police were hunting in the park. He warns the priest that someone like him will only keep making others suffer unless he's ended right now. Meanwhile, Nukuhara continues to struggle in the water. Detpit te waning, jako miharu, lingmuk, jus fucking. He believes God should be the one to judge Nukuhara Yuichi's sins. Aguri Shiro is left stunned by the priest's naive mercy, especially as Nukuhara finally coughs up the water. The priest's mercy backfires immediately. Seizing the moment of distraction, Nukuhara Yuichi grabs Miharu and dashes out of the room. Aguri Shiro can't help but call the old man a real idiot for his blind faith. Aguri Shiro turns to the priest with a terrifying, devilish grin. He asks him if he's going to try praying to God one more time, or if he's ready to cut a deal with the devil standing right in front of him to save his daughter. Outside, Nukuhara Yuichi runs through the park with Miharu slung over his shoulder. He's spotted by onlookers who scream in horror at the naked pervert. He realizes he can't hide in the park anymore and remembers a place where he used to work, the zoo. Nukuhara Yuichi spots a light truck and plans to use it to get far away with Miharu. He knows where the keys are kept and thinks he's found his ticket to freedom. He reaches the truck, but to his shock, the headlights are already on. Someone is inside. Nukuhara Yuichi shouts at the intruder to get out, unaware of who he's about to face. The driver's window rolls down to reveal Nico Tsukichi, Aguri's butler. He looks at the naked, filth-covered killer with a cold, professional gaze, while Nukuhara Yuichi is too enraged to realize the danger he's in. Nico Tsukichi calmly steps out of the car, commenting on Nukuhara Yuichi's interesting look. The killer tries to threaten the old fart, but Tsukichi is completely unfazed by the sight of the unconscious Miharu on the ground. With lightning speed and lethal precision, Nico Tsukichi delivers a devastating kick to Nukuhara Yuichi's face. He looks down at the killer with absolute disdain, calling him a filthy insect as he prepares to crush him. Nukuhara Yuichi collapses, blood dripping from his face as Nico Tsukichi looms over him. The butler's cold eyes through his glasses signal that the killer's reign of terror is over. Nico Tsukichi leaves the killer with a final, cutting remark. If he cannot experience a beautiful love, he's better off giving up on being a man. He begins to take off his suit jacket, preparing for the next phase of the plan. POV from inside a dark cage. Nukuhara Yuichi slowly opens his eyes, seeing the silhouettes of two men standing outside the bars. Confusion and fear begin to set in as he realizes the situation has changed once again. Nukuhara Yuichi wakes up fully, realizing he's in some kind of jail. Aguri Shiro and Nico Tsukichi are there to greet him, mockingly telling him it's already midnight. Aguri clarifies that this isn't a jail cell. Aguri Shiro reveals the horrifying truth. Nukuhara Yuichi is locked up in a cage at the zoo. He tells the killer to sit tight until sunrise because he can't hand him over to the police just yet. Aguri Shiro explains that the priest made him promise not to kill him, so this is his compromise. He tells Nukuhara Yuichi to chill, as he's not in with lions or bears. He's in with one of the calmer animals. But the sound from the shadows tells a different story. A massive gorilla emerges from the darkness, looming over the terrified Nukuhara Yuichi. Aguri Shiro comments that the beast looks pissed off, even though he thought it was supposed to be gentle. Nico Tsukichi explains the scientific reason for the gorilla's aggression. The animal has picked up a female scent from the waist, and urine Nukuhara Yuichi was covered in. It's not anger, it's a mating instinct. The nightmare begins as the gorilla attacks Nukuhara Yuichi. Aguri Shiro mockingly asks if they should let them express their love till dawn as the killer's screams of "oh" echo through the zoo. Back at the park restroom, a heavy silence has settled over the scene of the struggle. Within the dark, narrow confines of the toilet pit, a pair of trembling, filth-covered hands are clasped tight in a final, desperate act of devotion. Kobachi has reached his breaking point. Trapped and exhausted, He offers up a heart-wrenching prayer for Maharu's safety, willing to sacrifice his own life if it means she is out of harm's way, completely unaware of the brutal justice that has already claimed her attacker. Trapped at the bottom of the filthy toilet pit, Kobachi is overwhelmed by tears and despair. In his delirium, he sees a vision of Maharu reaching out her hand to him, a beautiful sight that feels like a hallucination in his dark, stinking reality. Meanwhile, Aguri Shiro and Nico Tsukichi are on the move. Aguri has cleaned himself up, wearing a new tie given to him by the priest. The butler asks about their next move, noting that their crew is growing and things are getting exciting. Aguri Shiro's eyes burn with a fierce ambition. He's not just hiding. He's preparing to deliver a direct challenge to the king of the ants himself. Every step he takes is a declaration of war. The story shifts to a clinical, sterile setting. This is Makurata Soji, the infamous boy M. Bound in a straitjacket and chains, he speaks with a deceptive sweetness, telling his psychiatrist that he no longer finds pleasure in killing, only in thinking about the doctor. The psychiatrist, blinded by professional arrogance, sees this as a sign of healthy puberty and the fruit of their counseling. Little does he know that beneath Makurata Soji's beautiful exterior and soft lips lies a predatory mind already planning his next move. Makurata Soji continues his performance, offering his entire body to the doctor as a show of gratitude. His feminine beauty and submissive posture are a perfect disguise for the monster within. The doctor is clearly affected, swallowing hard as Makurata Soji licks his lips. The boy's eyes glint with a sinister promise. He intends to do anything he possibly can before his youth is gone. This session is about to take a dark turn. The scene cuts to the Rikudo University Hospital, where the mangled hands of Nukuhara are shown, a stark contrast to the sterile halls of power. The damage is extensive and horrific. Nukuhara is a shell of a man, his face a grotesque mask of bandages and raw flesh. He can only manage a few incoherent gurgles as he lies in his hospital bed. Kitsune stands over the bed, reporting the gruesome details to Master Kirio. She explains that the gorilla didn't spare anything. Fingers, toes, nose, ears, and even his lower parts were torn apart. Rikudo Kirio looks on with a mixture of disgust and dark curiosity. Rikudo Kirio wonders if this is another work of Aguri Shiro, finding the level of brutality insane. Kitsune checks her phone, informing him that Aguri has seemingly slipped out of the park amidst the chaos, with sightings being reported on Twitter. And there they are, in the middle of a theme park. Aguri Shiro, Nico Tsukichi, and Kobachi are blending in an Izumi land, wearing mouse ears and character hats, as if they don't have a care in the world. Rikudo Kirio is absolutely livid when he sees the updates. He can't believe Aguri is at a theme park in Chiba while he's stuck dealing with the aftermath of their crimes. The exposure makes Aguri easier to track, but his blatant disregard for the police infuriates Kirio. Kirio's rage boils over. He's supposed to be the one having fun, yet Aguri Shiro is the one acting like life is a game. He grips his flashlight so hard his knuckles turn white, his face twisted in a mask of jealousy and hate. In the hospital room, Nukuhara's broken body twitches on the bed. Kitsune and Master Kirio watch as the life slowly drains out of the serial killer, a pathetic end to a monstrous existence. Back at the hospital, Maharu and a nurse assist her father as they walk through the corridor. Nico Tsukichi and Sakamizu follow close behind, maintaining a low profile while keeping an eye on their new charges. Maharu is happy to hear there's a new treatment available that might get her father out of his wheelchair. She encourages him to take his medicine, while her father looks on with a gentle, patient smile. Despite the hope of recovery, Maharu's father seems preoccupied. He sees Aguri Shiro as a unique, trial senpai god, someone whose soul needs saving even if preaching to him proves difficult. Maharu is left confused by his cryptic words. The group has moved to a local church. Aguri Shiro explains to his crew that he struck a deal with the priest. They can stay at the church as a hideout, but only on the condition that Aguri attends Bible lessons every Sunday morning. The idea of Aguri Shiro becoming a Christian is so absurd that Sakamizu and Kobachi burst into uncontrollable laughter. They can't imagine their tough guy leader saying "Amen" and following a priest's orders. Aguri isn't amused and delivers a swift kick to Sakamizu to quiet his laughter. He acknowledges that Miharu's dad is a bit odd, borderline fanatical about his mission. Kobachi, nursing his eye patch, looks on as the dynamic of their group shifts. They start looking through some old newspapers. Kobachi points out the serial murders from 2 years ago, the work of a 16-year-old boy that the media labeled Boy M. It was considered the worst juvenile crime since the war. Nico Tsukichi and Aguri listen as Kobachi describes Makarata Soji, the boy behind the name. He murdered 19 men who lived alone. Sakamizu vaguely remembers him as a gay kid whose mugshot looked like a pretty girl. It seems everyone agrees that rehab for such a monster is impossible. Miharu's father, however, is driven by a faith that defies logic. He's convinced that even a soul as dark as Makarata Soji's can be redeemed, having spent months sending tireless letters to the detention center, begging for just one chance to reach the boy. Kobachi found all this out by snooping through the mail, but Aguri Shiro only sees a man chasing a lost cause. He compares the priest's stubborn nature to a mosquito coil, something that is born twisted and will burn until it's spent. To him, some people are just built like that coil, spiraled from the very beginning. Aguri Shiro continues his analogy of the mosquito coil. He explains that some people are born twisted, and if you try to force them straight, they simply snap. It's a grim view of human nature, suggesting that some hearts are just hardened with malevolence from the start. In the quiet of the church, Aguri Shiro turns to Nico Tsukichi, asking if the meeting with the king of the ants is all planned out. Sakamizu and Kobachi listen in, sensing the weight of the coming confrontation. Nico Tsukichi is realistic about the difficulties. He warns Aguri that Master Ryuru is constantly on the move across the country, making him almost impossible to find, let alone get close to. To him, the mission seems unfeasible from the start. Tsukichi emphasizes that even with a location, Ryuru is the leader of the massive Rikudo conglomerate and is always under heavy guard. As Aguri ponders a disguise, a familiar voice suddenly interrupts. "Big bro Shiro." It's Keita. The young boy bursts into the chapel, gasping for breath. He's carrying a young girl named Ayaka on his back, shouting that she's hurt and asking if Miharu is around. Aguri and Sakamizu look on, surprised by the sudden intrusion. Ayaka is in tears, her legs scraped and bleeding. Keita explains that he found her crying and brought her to the church because it was the closest safe haven. A dark bruise or scrape is visible on her leg, a small injury that clearly caused her a lot of pain. Nico Tsukichi immediately goes to fetch some disinfectant for the girl. Aguri watches them go, calling the priest an old bastard, while Sakamizu wonders if she just tripped. The atmosphere in the chapel shifts from planning war to helping children. Keita reveals a sad truth. Ayaka is bullied by other girls because her family is poor. They're the only kids who don't own the popular new game, Shurake Nico's Pori Pori Island, and they're being left out and mistreated because of it. Aguri's solution to the bullying is characteristically blunt. Just shoplift. What's the problem? Sakamizu is horrified that he would say such a thing to kids, but Ayaka just gives a soft, sad chuckle, finding the advice absurd yet strangely honest. Ayaka's spirits lift as she mentions that today is her birthday. She proudly tells them that her dad made a promise to get her the game, believing that soon she won't be the only one left out anymore. Her innocent hope is heartbreaking. Aguri tries to cheer Keita up by promising to take him back to Nezumi Land soon. Sakamizu is definitely not on board with another trip in the back of a mini truck, while Ayaka snickers at their bickering, feeling a bit better. The scene shifts to the bustling city, outside a hobby and culture shop. A desperate quest is underway, far from the safety of the church. Inside the store, a middle-aged man is in a state of shock. He had pre-ordered the game for his daughter's birthday, but the clerk informs him that they're already out of stock. He can't believe his ears. This was supposed to be his big day. The shop owner gives a half-hearted apology, blaming a part-timer for an ordering mistake. The father is livid, demanding they call the distributor immediately, but he's told he'll have to wait at least 2 weeks. For his daughter's birthday, 2 weeks is a lifetime away. The man stumbles out of the shop, his breathing heavy with panic. He's checked every store, and the game is sold out everywhere. What was supposed to be a joyous occasion is turning into a nightmare. He looks down at the console he bought, realizing it's useless without the game. He skipped meals and worked overtime just to save for this, and now all he has to offer his daughter is a sad, gloomy face and an empty bag. Despair takes hold as tears stream down his face. He feels like a failure, unable to provide even a simple birthday gift for his child. He just wanted something to work out for once in his miserable life. He wanders past adult entertainment shops, their neon signs a mockery of his wholesome intentions. One sign for Puri Love Land catches his eye, a cruel coincidence given the name of the game his daughter wanted. Seeking escape, the man ends up in a bar, pouring his heart out to a hostess. He tells her a tragic story. His wife left him for a boyfriend and saddled him with a mountain of debt. He's been struggling just to raise his daughter alone. His time at the bar is cut short. When the hostess's time is up, he desperately wants to extend, even though he hasn't even had a real conversation. He's desperate for any kind of connection, any relief from his crushing reality. He opens his wallet and the finality of his situation hits him. He's down to his last 1,000 yen. He's frustrated, broke, and alone in the middle of a crowd of happy people. Every part of his day has been a disaster. With his last few yen, he buys a tiny shortcake, the only birthday gift he has left. Suddenly, a flashy scout in a leopard print shirt approaches him, asking if he's looking for some night work to solve his money problems. The man is startled or pushed, and the small cake box falls. To his horror, the scout's zebra print shoe comes down hard, crushing the delicate strawberry cake into the pavement. It was the last bit of hope he had for his daughter's birthday. Ignoring the crushed birthday cake, the scout's fury boils over at the sight of his dirted shoes. He delivers a brutal strike that sends the middle-aged man crashing to the pavement, his world spinning as a simple mistake turns into a violent nightmare. The beating continues as the scout relentlessly demands compensation for his spoiled gear. Trapped in a state of absolute despair, the father lies on the ground, huddling in pain while the cold city looks on, leaving him completely at the mercy of this greedy predator. The flashy scout mocks the man, calling him a joke for only having spare change. He grabs the shopping bag, wondering how much the game console inside would sell for, while the heartless crowd refuses to call the police. Beaten and broken, the father lies on the pavement, crying that everything is pointless. Just as he gives up, a young girl in a school uniform stands over him, begging him to wake up. The girl finds the crushed strawberry cake on the ground. Instead of being disgusted, she picks it up and begins to eat it with a smile, acting as if she's finally found a hero to help her. She cries out, telling him she ran away from home and hasn't eaten all day. She begs the mister to be her hero and help her out. The man, desperate for any shred of dignity, agrees to help the starving girl. She leans against him, saying they almost collapse together like a big old cross. Her gratitude is overwhelming, making the man feel useful for the first time in a long time. The girl skillfully manipulates him, guessing he's the kind of dad who sleeps side by side with his family. She licks her lips, whispering how perfect it would be if only he lived alone. The trap is being set. Back at their cramped apartment, Ayaka is already asleep on the couch. The room is messy, filled with signs of their poverty and the father's struggles. Outside, the night is silent and cold. The door opens, and Ayaka wakes up, excitedly shouting, "Daddy," as she welcomes him home. She's happy to see him, unaware of the stranger he's brought with him. The mysterious girl looms behind the father, commenting on how cute his daughter is. Ayaka looks at her with confusion, sensing something is wrong. The father's demeanor has changed. He tells Ayaka he needs to have an important talk with this lady and coldly orders her to sleep on the couch tonight, barely looking at his own child. Ayaka's heart breaks. She asks if he forgot it's her birthday today, but the father explodes in a fit of rage. He screams about how her mother never celebrated his birthday and tells her to just go to sleep. All the frustration of his life is being taken out on her. The girl winks at the terrified Ayaka, telling her no peeking as she slides the door shut. The poor girl is left alone in the dark, listening to the man she loved turn into a stranger. Inside the room, the man is done being a good person. He blames God for his miserable life and decides he's done playing nice. The girls stand behind him, asking if he's sure since today was such a big day for his daughter. Without another word, she pulls him into a kiss. The man is caught by surprise, his world suddenly narrowing down to this beautiful, dangerous girl. She pins him to the bed, promising to serve him as much as she can. The man panics for a moment, worried that Ayaka might hear them, but his lust and despair drown out his conscience. Suddenly, a breaking news report flashes on the TV screen. An 18-year-old has escaped from a juvenile detention facility after murdering a psychiatrist. The man stares at the screen, a terrifying realization slowly sinking in. Flashback to the crime scene. The psychiatrist's body was found in a horrific state, his scalp ripped off and his face mutilated. The police are baffled by the sheer brutality of the attack. The investigation reveals that a spare key was used to open the lock from the outside. The psychiatrist had fallen for the boy's charm and provided him with the means to escape. A deadly mistake. Chaos erupted as the doctor came flying out of the room, clutching his face and screaming that Makarata had bitten off his nose. In the confusion, the boy slipped away, leaving only death behind. Makarata Soji is a monster, a master of disguise who uses his talent to get close to his targets and evade the police. One detective warns that if he isn't caught, he'll just keep shattering murder records. Back in the present, the girl is calmly typing on a computer. The man is now tied up with rope, his face full of terror as he realizes he's in the presence of a predator. The girl's voice is cold as she tells him to hang tight. She reveals her true nature, calling herself M-chan and admitting she's a total sadist, one of the best in Japan. The man can only watch in horror as she prepares her tools, realizing the girl he thought was a victim is actually a serial killer. M-chan smiles as she picks up a roll of tape, mentioning that even though they're juveniles, she's for the death penalty too. She's enjoying the man's fear, treating his life like a game. With a cold look, she gags the man, telling him to shut up because he's being too noisy. He tries to scream, but only a muffled MMPHHH escapes as his nightmare begins in earnest. The disguise comes off, the wig, the eyelashes, all removed to reveal the true face of Makarata Soji, Boy M. On the computer screen, he's found a new target, Aguri Shiro, with a 100 million yen bounty on his head. Get ready to cry, he whispers to the tied-up man, because it's going to be brutal. A clash between two monsters is on the horizon. Makarata Soji, the infamous serial killer known as Boy M, looms over his latest victim with a chilling, innocent-looking smile. He's about to start a gruesome service with his favorite pair of scissors. As he toys with his prey, Soji notices a news item featuring Aguri Shiro. He's been a star in Soji's eyes for the past 2 years, and the killer is eager to reunite. "I told you I'd make it out," Soji whispers, his eyes wide with a manic obsession that has only grown stronger during his time on the run. The victim, bound and gagged, can only watch in terror. He realizes too late that the runaway girl he brought home is actually the nation's most wanted monster. Soji, still wearing the school skirt he used for his disguise, mocks the man's lingering attraction. He's a master of blending in, and an even greater master of cruelty. He leans in close, sharing a dark theory. When men face certain death, their instincts command them to procreate. He offers to be the man's final, twisted partner. The room is filled with plushies, an eerie backdrop as Soji reflects on his mother's whimsical mind and her obsession with making dresses. She was so desperate for a girl that she made dozens of outfits before he was even born. She could never come to terms with the fact that she had a son. With a sudden, violent motion, Soji uses his scissors. The man's muffled screams echo through the apartment as Soji begins his dressmaking on human flesh. In the next room, little Ayaka is fast asleep. It's her birthday, and she has no idea her father's life is being snuffed out just feet away. Soji mocks the loving dad, who would risk everything just for a thrill with a runaway girl, leaving his daughter all alone while he played house. The man breaks down, tears streaming down his face as he begs Soji to take his life but spare his daughter. "Let that be enough," he pleads silently. Soji isn't moved. This is victim number 20 for him. His real goal tonight is finding information on a man named Aguri Shiro and a quiet place to sleep. He reveals a grotesque scar, a souvenir from his first victim, his own father, who toyed with him every night after his mother disappeared. His face darkens into a terrifying mask of malice. He promises to take his sweet time, giving the man all the service he could ever ask for. "Die peacefully, and there's only one corpse," Soji whispers. "But if your daughter wakes up because of your screams, then there will be two." The blade plunges. The man clenches his teeth, enduring the agony in absolute silence to protect his child from the monster he led into their home. Later, the 11 o'clock news breaks with a follow-up on the Boy M escape incident, a case that has kept the entire country on edge. Sakamizu and Kobachi are glued to their laptop as the news team decides to release the fugitive's full information for public safety. The face of the 18-year-old killer is finally revealed to the world: Makarata Soji, a deceptively normal-looking boy for such a prolific predator. Sakamizu warns that Soji is a master of disguise, a wild tiger on the run. Kobachi can't help but worry about Maharu, who always seems to attract trouble. They talk about how Maharu is always late and has a knack for attracting scumbags, but she's also fast enough to stay one step ahead of them. "Quit wasting time." Aguri Shiro's voice booms as he enters the room, his patience clearly at its limit. He has no interest in these side stories. Aguri kicks his subordinates into action, dismissing the news as a mere distraction. He has no room in his mind for small fry killers. His sights are set solely on the king of the ants, Rikudo Ryutaro. Nico Tsukichi watches Aguri's back, seeing the same unwavering resolve that once belonged to his father. But while a new strategy forms here, back in the silence of a victim's home, an innocent child is about to wake up to a nightmare. Ayaka rubs her eyes, waking up to find a strange girl in a school uniform standing over her. Makarata Soji, still in his schoolgirl disguise, offers a chillingly sweet smile, asking if his presence woke the little girl. He looms over her with a large pair of scissors, a sinister shadow in the dim light of the room. Soji sits on the sofa with Ayaka, his voice dripping with false kindness. He looks at her father, who is bound and silenced, and tells the girl that her daddy is just sleeping deeply, almost like he's dead. Ayaka, innocent and unaware of the horror, simply watches as the big sister asks if she can sit beside her. They begin to talk about a picture book Ayaka received from her father for her birthday last year. It's the story of Cinderella, a sad little girl who turns into a happy princess. To Ayaka, it's a tale of hope, but in Soji's hands, the book feels like a dark omen. Ayaka shares her memories of her mother reading the book to her in bed. She misses her mother dearly and remembers how her father used to get upset when she cried about it. Soji listens intently, his expression unreadable as he learns about the family's fractured past. In her childish innocence, Ayaka believes her father has suffered much more than she has, enduring painful things for a long time. Soji agrees, his hand tightening around the handle of his bag, where his deadly tools are hidden. He realizes just how much endurance this family has been forced to practice. Despite her loneliness, Ayaka flashes a bright, hopeful smile. She declares that she'll be totally fine because one day, she's going to become an idol. It's a dream that keeps her going even when she gets picked on at school, a beacon of light in her otherwise bleak life. Ayaka recounts the time her father took her to a wonderful place, a shop where girls dreaming of being idols would read picture books to the customers. It was a unique cafe that offered companionship and comfort through stories, with a menu detailing prices for reading sessions and resting on lap options. In the flashback, the shop's door opens and a beautiful woman dressed as a maid welcomes them. Ayaka's father, looking nervous but hopeful, stands behind his daughter as she clutches her favorite Cinderella book, ready for a weekend escape into a fairy tale. The maid, who Ayaka remembers as having a soft voice and smelling just like her mother, gave her a special ticket for a live performance. It was at this shop that Ayaka first felt like she could be a part of the idol world, even if only for a short while every Sunday. Miharu, in her persona as an underground idol, looks down at Ayaka with a gentle smile. She tells the girl that this is what it means to be a Cinderella for a weekend, the one day she gets to be a princess and sing her heart out for everyone to hear. The concert was held late at night, but Ayaka's father made an exception and let her stay to watch the princesses shining in the light. For Ayaka, the scene was like something straight out of a picture book, a dreamlike moment of pure joy and music. Miharu performed with everything she had, singing about climbing the stairs of adulthood while remaining a Cinderella at heart. In the audience, Ayaka watched with stars in her eyes, completely enchanted by the magic of the stage and the woman she admired. Back in the present, Ayaka explains that people often call her poor and filthy, but she believes that if she could become a princess like Idol, they would finally like her. Soji watches her with a cold, predatory gaze, sensing the girl's desperate desire for a different life. Soji stands up and takes Ayaka's hand, telling her she has a chance since she's a girl. Unlike him, he offers to use his magic to make her a princess right away, leading the unsuspecting child toward the bathroom for what he calls a special transformation. Inside the bathroom, Soji tells Ayaka that he is actually a fairy. He explains that things might get messy during the process, so she needs to take off her clothes and keep her eyes closed so the magic can work smoothly. Ayaka, trusting and excited, agrees without hesitation. Soji promises her a new life through a magic called reincarnation. Ayaka is thrilled, thinking her dream is about to come true. Little does she know, the magic Soji refers to as the cold steel of his scissors, which he prepares to use as she shuts her eyes tight, waiting for a miracle that will never come. The innocent joy on Ayaka's face contrasts sharply with the manic, terrifying expression on Soji's as he raises his scissors. A sudden, sharp snip echoes from the apartment building, cutting through the night air and ending the girl's dreams in a heartbeat. Moments later, a sophisticated and elegant woman in a white dress and a wide-brimmed hat walks calmly away from the apartment complex. Makurata Soji has completed his work and donned yet another perfect disguise, passing by neighbors without raising a single suspicion. As he walks, Soji complains to himself about how painful it is to walk in high heels. He feels lucky that the girl's mother left her clothes and makeup behind before abandoning the family, providing him with the perfect tools for his next escape. His thoughts drift to Aguri Shiro, who is rumored to be hiding near Tamagashira Park. Soji arrives at Tamagashira Station, noting that the park is nearby. He scoffs at the online rumors that Aguri fled back to the countryside, laughing quietly to himself because he knows Aguri would never run away. His obsession with his husband is as strong as ever as he moves closer to their long-awaited reunion. The scene shifts back to 2 years ago in Chiba, revealing the moment that forged the monster known as Boy M. This flashback provides a glimpse into the trauma and violence that defined Soji's early years and led him down his dark, blood-stained path. Inside a blood-spattered room, a man with heavy tattoos lies dead on the floor. In the background, a younger Soji, dressed in a polka-dot apron, calmly goes about his business, singing to himself about how fortune will surely come to everyone who believes in the carriage of fairy tales. At just 16 years old, Makurata Soji was already a seasoned killer. He tastes his cooking with a delicate, delicious, unfazed by the mangled corpse of his father lying nearby. He complains about the lack of a bath in the room, finding it disrespectful to bring a girl into such a place, even as he stands in a pool of blood. As he looks down at his bloody knife, Soji realizes this is officially his 19th kill, cementing his status as a vicious criminal. He reflects on his fragmented identity, feeling that he is neither man nor woman, and that his life has been irrevocably scarred by surgery and violence beyond any hope of repair. A single tear rolls down his face as he admits to a deep, hollow loneliness, feeling himself drift further and further away from humanity with every life he takes. He has become a shell driven only by blood and obsession, existing in a silent, macabre world that is about to be violently torn open. In a blood-spattered room 2 years ago, a 16-year-old Makarata Soji, boy M, stands over his latest victim. Clad in a polka-dot apron, he's startled by a sudden, violent pounding at the front door. Someone is trying to break in, and they aren't being quiet about it. With a thunderous crash, the door is kicked open. A 15-year-old Aguri, Shiro, bursts inside, wielding a heavy wooden mallet. He's stunned to find his target, a notorious Yakuza, already dead in a pool of blood. His frantic entrance has left him panting, completely taken aback by the scene before him. Aguri is visibly frustrated that someone beat him to the punch. He turns his attention to the girl standing in the kitchen, but as their eyes meet, a strange, heavy silence fills the room. He looks at Soji with a mix of suspicion and annoyance, while Soji is frozen, his innocent facade momentarily slipping. Aguri mocks Soji, assuming he's a girl and teasing her for peeking at such a gruesome murder. He finds it amusing that a woman would be so fascinated by a crime scene. Soji is completely flustered, his face turning a deep red as he struggles to maintain his act under Aguri's intense gaze. Aguri explains that he was roped into this by other students because the Yakuza was forcing kids into drugs. He shows a chilling disregard for life as he casually steps on the dead man's face, mocking the mess he's found himself in. For Soji, this level of callousness from a boy Aguri's age is both shocking and fascinating. Soji is genuinely terrified. He's never met anyone who could laugh at a murder scene like he does. Sensing that this boy is far more dangerous than any Yakuza, Soji's survival instincts kick in. He grips a kitchen knife with a trembling hand, realizing that he has to kill Aguri before things get even more out of control. But Aguri is faster than any predator Soji has ever faced. With a brutal, uncompromising kick to the face, he sends Soji sprawling across the kitchen floor. As Soji lies there, bloodied and defeated, Aguri realizes the truth. This bitch isn't a girl at all, but a boy in disguise. The scene shifts to a moonlit bamboo forest late at night. The sound of the wind through the tall stalks is the only thing that can be heard as Aguri prepares for his next move. The atmosphere is thick with dread, a perfect setting for a final confrontation. Aguri is casually digging a grave while a bound and gagged Soji sits helplessly on the ground. To Soji's confusion, Aguri seems more excited about finding a fresh bamboo shoot than the fact that he's about to bury a serial killer. He mocks Soji's frantic questions, treating the whole situation like a mundane chore. With a sharp kick, Aguri sends the bound Soji tumbling into the freshly dug pit. The boy who was so proud of his service is now at the mercy of a teenager who doesn't seem to care about his reputation or his crimes at all. Soji's muffled screams of protest are ignored as Aguri looks down at him from above. Aguri is brutally honest. Soji's record of 19 lives means nothing to him. He argues that if a kid like Soji could do it, then anyone could. Soji is horrified, his pride as a vicious criminal being dismantled by Aguri's cold logic. He screams about his body being meant to be extraordinary, desperate to be more than just another record in history. Aguri continues to mock Soji, comparing his murders to a child collecting plushies, a pointless and empty pursuit. He tells Soji that soon, fresh bamboo shoots will sprout over this grave, and he will be completely forgotten. The idea of being erased from history is more terrifying to Soji than the death that awaits him. The one thing Soji cannot accept is losing his identity. As the dirt begins to pile up, he finally breaks. He begs Aguri to stop, his desperate screams for self-preservation echoing through the silent bamboo grove. He's willing to face anything, even the poor couple Aguri mentioned, just to avoid being forgotten by the earth. Aguri leans over the pit with a terrifying, demonic grin. He tells Soji that killing doesn't make him special. It just makes him a boring, ordinary person. Under the crushing weight of Aguri's words, Soji's will snaps. Tears of pure terror stream down his face as he finally begs to turn himself into the police. The night shifts from violence to a strange, quiet domesticity. A steaming bowl of bamboo shoot rice sits on a table, the result of the bizarre truce between the delinquent and the killer. Back at the apartment, the atmosphere is heavy with the aftermath of their encounter. Aguri digs into the rice, surprised by its sweet flavor. It reminds him of his mother's cooking, a realization that seems to catch him off guard. Soji watches him with a mix of resentment and curiosity, his apron a strange contrast to the blood that still stains the room. Aguri mocks Soji for being a mama's boy after all. As he eats, Aguri admits that handing Soji over to the cops is starting to feel like a waste. He tells Soji that a murderer has no choice but to live as a demon, a path of no return. In the shadows, Soji's hand tightens around a knife hidden behind his back, his murderous intent still simmering beneath the surface. Aguri turns back to Soji with a smirk and says, "You're one hell of a woman." The comment startles Soji, completely throwing him off balance. Despite his gender, the recognition of his strength from Aguri hits him in a way no victim's screams ever could. Aguri predicts that Soji will spend the rest of his life behind bars for his 19 murders. Hearing this, Soji slowly lets go of the knife he was hiding. The urge to kill has been replaced by a bewildering new emotion, the realization that someone has finally seen the real him, even if that person is his captor. With a bright, genuine smile, Aguri asks for seconds. He makes a bold, half-joking promise that will haunt Soji for years. "If you ever get out, I'll make you my wife." For a boy who felt like a monster, this was the first time anyone had ever offered him a future. Back in the present, Makurata Soji is overwhelmed by the memory, tears of frustration and longing streaming down his face. The flashback ends, returning us to the immediate aftermath of his encounter with Ayaka and her father. The weight of that 2-year-old promise is what drives him now. At the apartment, Ayaka's father slowly wakes up. He's alive, though heavily bandaged and dazed. Ayaka's voice rings out in the quiet room, her desperate calls for him to wake up finally being answered as he groans in pain and confusion. It seems Soji decided to spare him after all. Ayaka leans over her father with a beaming smile, her eyes full of innocent joy. She asks if he's all right, completely unaware of how close they both came to a gruesome end. Her father can only stare at her, overwhelmed by the miracle of their survival. The father is still in a daze, his mind reeling as he wonders where the woman disappeared to. Ayaka, however, is beaming with joy, proudly showing off the beautiful braid Soji gave her to make her look like a princess. While she's ecstatic about her special birthday makeover, her father can only shudder, knowing the terrifying nature of the stylist who performed it. Ayaka explains that the lady even prepared a full breakfast for them before vanishing into the night. On the table sits the meal alongside a cryptic note signed with a lipstick kiss, a haunting sign-off from Makurata Soji that contains a biting message for the father he spared. The note left by Makurata Soji, Boy M, is a chilling reminder of his bizarre sense of kindness. He mocks Ayaka's father for his inability to care for his daughter's hair, warning him that such neglect is where bullying begins for motherless girls. To him, even a murder scene can be a lesson in parenting. In a flashback to the night's events, Soji is seen carefully styling Ayaka's hair with a soft, almost motherly expression. He tells her that true happiness isn't found in a pile of dolls, but in finding that one dearest favorite, a special magic that can turn a miserable girl into a princess, even if only for a fleeting second. Back in the present, Aguri Shiro's rage boils over as he reads a newspaper reporting Rikudo's inauguration as the new president of the Rikudo conglomerate. He slams his fist down in fury, seeing the man who destroyed everything he loved reaching the absolute peak of power. Aguri discusses the situation with Nico Chukichi and Sakamizu in the dim light of their hideout. Today marks the 50th anniversary of the conglomerate's founding, a grand event where Ryuru will officially claim his position as the rightful successor before the eyes of the entire world. Chukichi warns that security for the celebration will be ironclad, with even the prime minister in attendance. But Aguri is beyond caring about the risks. He's desperate for any gap in their defenses, wanting nothing more than to crash the party and shove a challenge note right in Ryuru's face. Aguri is busy brainstorming wild ways to infiltrate the venue, from jumping out of helicopters to slithering through sewers, when the door suddenly slams open. A mysterious woman stands at the entrance, her silhouette framed by the light as she confidently declares that she's got this. It's Makurata Soji in his elegant disguise. He rushes toward Aguri with a manic, joyful shout, announcing that he's come for him just as he promised 2 years ago. "I'm gonna be your wife," he screams, his obsession with Aguri on full, terrifying display. Aguri's response is a swift and uncompromising kick to the face. Soji's dramatic entrance is cut short by a brutal whack as he screams in shock, desperately begging for his husband not to hit him in the face. Sakamizu watches the chaos, completely baffled by the newcomer's behavior. Aguri is in no mood for games, especially from a legendary serial killer. He tells Soji that he has no time to shelter a wanted criminal and demands that the bastard get out immediately. Sakamizu and Chukichi watch in silence, realizing that their small group has just become even more complicated. With a rough tug, Aguri pulls off Soji's wig, revealing the short hair of the boy known as Boy M. Sakamizu's jaw drops in pure shock. He never imagined a notorious killer would be so obsessed with Aguri that he'd follow him across the country just to demand a marriage. Soji is desperate, threatening to kill Aguri if he doesn't marry him on the spot. Aguri, completely unfazed, calmly points out the legal age for marriage, leaving Soji fuming. Poor Sakamizu is so overwhelmed by the sheer madness of the situation that he starts running away in a panic. Soji clings to Aguri's arm with a bright, disturbing smile, while Aguri casually gives Chukichi permission to kill him if he gets too annoying. Sakamizu, watching from a distance, realizes that between a serial killer and his own boss, Aguri Shiro is easily the scariest person in the room. Soji quickly realizes he can be useful to Aguri's plan. He suggests impersonating a guest to sneak behind the king of the ants and deliver a lethal blow. To him, the entire operation is just a piece of cake, and his eyes sparkle with the thrill of a new mission. Aguri shuts him down immediately, calling him a moron. This isn't about a cowardly assassination. Aguri wants a formal salutation. He intends to meet Ryuru face-to-face and declare war on the Rikudo Empire in front of everyone, proving that he isn't afraid of their power. Aguri has no interest in sneak attacks or unfair advantages. To him, only cowards who can't win a straight fight rely on such tactics. He wants a proper battle, mocking Ryuru and his elites for acting like they're just having a playful water gun fight while he's preparing for a real war. Aguri looks at a small ant on his finger, drawing a parallel to his own situation. Ryuru and the Rikudo elites look down on him as if he's just an insignificant insect they can stomp out whenever they feel like it, laughing at his seemingly futile efforts to challenge them. But Aguri is determined to prove them wrong. He envisions himself as a giant ant towering over the Rikudo family, ready to teach them a lesson they'll never forget. He wants them to realize that the ant at their feet is much bigger and more dangerous than they ever could have expected. There's a deeper, more personal reason driving Aguri toward this confrontation. He has a question for Wu, one that can only be asked in the middle of a fiery brawl. His gaze is ice-cold and utterly focused, filled with a resolve that even his closest allies find intimidating. The operation is a go. Aguri is pumped up and commands his crew to round up for the mission to crash the party. Chukichi watches his master with a mix of concern and admiration, sensing that the real battle for the future of the Rikudo conglomerate is finally about to begin. A small white truck rumbles through the city streets, an unassuming vehicle that hides Aguri's determined crew. It's the perfect way to blend into the evening traffic as they move toward their target, staying one step ahead of the massive security network surrounding the celebration. In the back of the truck, Soji, back in his feminine disguise, is absolutely loving the fresh air. While Sakamizu and the young Kobachi huddle in the shadows, Soji is as cheerful as a girl on a summer outing, completely unbothered by the fact that they're heading into a war zone. Kobachi, the boy with the eye patch, is instantly smitten by the lovely person sitting with him. Sakamizu, sweating profusely and knowing the terrifying truth about the girl's identity, can only suggest that it's better for Kobachi's sanity if he doesn't ask any more questions. Aguri is at the wheel with Chukichi in the passenger seat. Chukichi asks about their destination, and Aguri replies with a confident smirk. They're going to find a target for a disguise. He's already planning his next move, his hand steady as he drives them toward their destiny. Chukichi points out the fatal flaw in their plan. The party invitations are embedded with electronic chips to prevent forgery, making even the most flawless disguise useless against high-tech scanners. He explains that the guest list is restricted to the elite, and with such impenetrable security, he urges Aguri to wait for a more realistic opening. Aguri's smile only grows more predatory as he looks in the mirror, dismissing the need for a formal invitation entirely. He reveals he's found a much better way in a sickly, shut-in otaku, who is exactly his age, a hidden target whose identity is the ultimate key to bypassing the conglomerate's fortress. Aguri Shiro reveals his outrageous plan to snatch Rikudo Kiryu and pose as him to bypass the party's high-tech security. The crew is stunned by the audacity of the idea, but Aguri's confident grin and sharp gaze leave no room for doubt. To him, the youngest kid of the Rikudo family is the perfect ticket into the lion's den. The team arrives at the Rikudo Medical University Hospital, a massive, imposing complex that looks more like a fortress than a place of healing. This facility is the heart of the Rikudo Empire's medical research and the rumored residence of the hidden prince, Kiryu. Aguri finalizes the tech setup before sending in their scout. A wireless camera and mobile phone have been hidden inside a Shirake cat doll, which Katakun, the youngest and most unassuming member of the crew, will carry throughout the hospital to track down their target. The hospital lobby is bustling with murmurs and the rustle of patients. Katakun wanders through the crowds with his cat doll, while Aguri, Chukichi, and the rest of the team monitor the crystal-clear live feed from their laptop, guiding the boy to explore every room. Suddenly, a familiar face appears on the screen. It's Ayaka and her heavily bandaged father, whom we saw earlier. Katakun recognizes them and calls out to Ayaka, catching the attention of the duo as they walk through the hospital corridors. Katakun plays the role of an innocent child perfectly, telling Ayaka and her father that he's on a secret spy mission given to him by Big Bro Shiro. The father, looking worse for wear, is charmed by the boy's energy, unaware that he's part of a dangerous operation. From a monitoring station, Aguri and Chukichi discuss the target. They know Kiryu is a long-term patient here, but his exact location is a closely guarded secret. Aguri wonders if the spoiled little prince is even in this building, as he hasn't been seen in years. Chukichi explains that Kiryu has been hospitalized since he was a child, making this hospital practically his permanent residence. However, even as the former head of security, Chukichi admits he doesn't know which room belongs to the young master, indicating just how deep the Rikudo family's secrets run. Katakun peeks into a room in the West Ward and finds Maharu tending to her father, the priest. The hidden camera provides a clear view of the peaceful scene as the boy decides to make his presence known to his friend. Maharu is happy to see Katakun, but the boy stays focused on his mission. He quickly says goodbye and leaves, leaving Maharu and her father completely baffled by his sudden appearance and even more sudden departure. "Wait!" Miharu shouts as he vanishes down the hall. As Keita-kun runs off, the camera angle provides an accidental and embarrassing view of Miharu's skirt. The crew watching the monitor has mixed reactions. Makarata Soji is furious at the disrespectful angle, while Aguri and the others are secretly impressed by the boy's talent for getting such a clear shot. Miharu decides to join Keita-kun's spy mission, and the two start exploring every corner of the hospital together. Miharu mentions she's never been to the top lounge, and the two adventurers head off with excitement, much to the crew's chagrin. Aguri and Sakamizu watch the screen with a mixture of disbelief and growing frustration. "Great! Dumb and Dumber just joined forces," Aguri mutters as the pair heads into a dark, off-limits section of the hospital, making the operation even more unpredictable. The elevator dings as it reaches the 9th floor, which is pitch black and unsettling. Keita-kun worries about ghosts or a morgue being nearby, but Miharu, clinging to her faith, tries to stay brave despite her obvious wobbling knees. Their adventure is starting to feel like a horror movie. Suddenly, two intimidating men in lab coats block their path. "Where do you think you're going?" they ask with cold, unfriendly smiles. They inform the pair that this area is strictly off-limits to the general public, their presence making it clear that something important is being hidden here. The sign behind the guards reveals the truth. This is the International Infectious Disease Research Lab. The guards warn that one wrong step could lead to a lethal infection, and Miharu and Keita-kun don't need to be told twice. They turn and dash away, their laughter echoing as they escape the tension. Back at the station, Aguri realizes that something is very fishy. A lab storing lethal viruses shouldn't be labeled on a hospital map, much less have such an obvious sign. He suspects the facility is a cover for something even more top secret and decides it's time to investigate personally. Makarata Soji has a terrifying smile as he imagines the chaos a villain like him could cause with lethal viruses. Meanwhile, Chukichi and Aguri note that the doctors they saw had the physiques of trained fighters, confirming that this lab is a highly guarded facility. Aguri decides to take a quick look and tells the crew to wait. He pulls out a surgical mask, his eyes filled with a predatory focus as he prepares to infiltrate the hidden lab. He mocks Chukichi, telling the old man to just wait for his turn at a hospital or funeral home. Aguri looks over his team, deciding who will accompany him. Sakamizu waits with bated breath, hoping for a chance to prove his worth. But to his shock, Aguri passes him over, his gaze landing on the disguised Makarata Soji instead. "Man, you're totally useless," Aguri tells a devastated Sakamizu. He chooses Soji for the mission, deciding that a girl is a better fit for this particular infiltration. Soji is overjoyed, while Sakamizu is left staring in disbelief, his pride as a warrior completely shattered. Soji is ecstatic about their first date at a hospital, his obsession with Aguri making him see every mission as a romantic outing. Aguri sharply tells him to back off, his focus entirely on the dangerous task ahead, while the rest of the crew watches their master walk away. Sakamizu clenches his fist in pure frustration, tears of humiliation welling in his eyes. He's worked so hard to learn martial arts and stay by Aguri's side, yet he still feels like he's worth nothing in his master's eyes. Chukichi and Kobachi can only watch as the young man struggles with his feelings. Noticing Sakamizu's inner turmoil, Chukichi leans in with a look of ancient wisdom. He shares a piece of his own past, admitting that before he met Aguri's father, Master Kisaburo, he was just as impulsive and lost. Having stood by the Shiro family for decades, he recognizes the same raw, desperate hunger for purpose in Sakamizu's eyes. The old butler speaks of a profound philosophy, the bond between the sun and the moon. He explains that Master Kisaburo was a radiant sun, and he was content to be the moon, gladly casting himself into the shadows just to reflect that brilliant light. To Chukichi, a life spent in service to such a man wasn't a sacrifice, but a source of ultimate meaning. Nico Chukichi poses a final, wait question to Sakamizu. Will you inherit my role and stand as Master Aguri's moon? He admits that as an old man, he won't be around forever, and the crew needs someone strong to carry the torch of loyalty. Sakamizu is struck by the old man's words. Shukichi explains that while the moon can never grasp the sun, it is the act of chasing that brilliance that carves a radiant path across the night sky, a beautiful metaphor for their devoted service. You don't need to bear your own light, Shukichi tells him. Simply follow the sun that stirs your heart. Meanwhile, at the high-security research lab, a sharp buzzer sounds, signaling the arrival of two very unexpected visitors. Aguri Shiro and the disguised Makarata Soji, Boy M, make their move. Aguri is hunched over, faking a violent, racking cough as the elevator doors slide open, immediately drawing the suspicious glares of the guards. The guards try to turn them away, but Soji plays the part of a frantic, worried woman perfectly. She pleads with them to help, claiming they're almost at their destination and that Aguri's condition is far worse than just a common cold. Aguri pulls down his mask, revealing a face covered in horrific red spots and fake blood. He wheezes and groans, claiming he's bleeding from everywhere, a terrifying sight that hits the guards exactly where they are most vulnerable, their fear of contagion. The guards panic, screaming for them to get out. Aguri and Soji share a knowing look. They've hit the jackpot. While the guards are distracted by the virus, Soji calmly reapplies his lipstick, preparing for the violent shift in tone. The act is over. Aguri and Soji launch into action, their movements fast and brutal. Aguri delivers a heavy punch to a guard's face, deciding that since they're already here, they might as well make a magnificent mess of things. An entire squad of doctors, who are clearly trained fighters, rushes down the corridor. Aguri laughs, joking that it feels like they're fighting an army of white blood cells determined to purge the infection. The guards finally recognize Aguri Shiro and realize the true danger they are in. They shout orders to shoot him on sight, while Soji mocks them, joking that shooting in a hospital usually involves a much smaller needle. Bullets fly as the guards open fire. Aguri ducks for cover, shouting for Soji to get down as the hallway becomes a lethal crossfire zone. The infiltration has officially turned into an all-out war. Suddenly, Sakamizu makes an explosive entrance. He sprints down the hallway, literally running on the walls with gravity-defying speed. The guards can only stare in disbelief as the young martial artist closes the distance in a flash. With a thunderous smack, Sakamizu delivers a devastating kick to a guard's head, sending his weapon flying. Aguri and Soji watch from the sidelines, stunned by the sheer power and agility Sakamizu is displaying. "Holy shit!" Aguri exclaims in genuine admiration. Sakamizu is a blur of motion, landing hit after hit with pinpoint accuracy. He's taking on the entire squad single-handedly, his focus and balance proving that Shukichi's faith in him was well-placed. Aguri can't help but joke even in the heat of battle, saying that if Sakamizu had a mic stand, he'd look like a world-class rock star. Soji tells him to quit playing around, reminding him that Sakamizu is literally fighting for his life right now. With the path cleared by Sakamizu's relentless assault, Aguri and Soji charge forward. They need to keep up with the young warrior as he carves a path through the hospital's elite security toward their ultimate prize. Shukichi watches Sakamizu with a look of profound respect. Seeing the young man's incredible agility and balance, he knows he's found the right person. "You are truly impressive, Sir Sakamizu," he thinks, confident that his legacy is in good hands. Deep inside the restricted ward, the chaos outside is nothing but background noise. A handheld gaming console glows in the dim light, showing a whimsical game of armored cats. The contrast between the violence in the hall and the peace in this room is jarring. The player is Rikudo Kiryu, Hong 2UOT, the target of Aguri's mission. His protector, Nizuna, a nurse who is actually a star pupil of Master Kitsune, assures him that no matter who attacks, she will protect him. But Kiryu remains nonchalant, dismissing the noise as lazy guards drinking on the job. Kiryu speaks with a voice full of nihilistic boredom. He knows that tonight his brother Ryutaru will take over their father's position, officially making Kiryu nothing more than a useless burden to the conglomerate. He even tells the kidnappers to just hand him over and get it over with. The chapter ends with a chilling, crazed smile from Kiryu. He laughs, his eyes wide with a terrifying emptiness. And then, my older brother will kill me. This dark revelation leaves the crew and the audience wondering just what kind of monster they've come to rescue. At the Rikudo Medical University Hospital, Nizuna, a nurse with a deadly secret, laughs off the dark premonitions of her patient. Rikudo Kiryu, the sickly younger brother of the Empire's heir, mutters about his own inevitable end, sensing the bloodlust from his own kin. Meanwhile, miles away, Rikudo, the cold and powerful heir to the Rikudo conglomerate, enjoys a lavish breakfast while receiving a call from Captain Krishna. Despite the bandages on his face, the captain delivers a morning greeting from Bali. Ryutaru isn't in the mood for small talk, especially this early. Krishna, unbothered by the heir's icy demeanor, prepares to drop a bombshell. This isn't just a social call, it's a warning about something urgent. The news is grim. A planned terrorist attack is targeting the conglomerate's 50th anniversary party tonight. Krishna's face turns serious as he warns Ryutaru that someone is specifically out to kill him. Ryutaru remains unfazed, casually eating as Krishna explains the details. It seems a weapons syndicate under Krishna's oversight accidentally sold firearms to a Chinese group with a personal vendetta against the Rikudo family. The call turns into a negotiation when Krishna tries to hike the price of their next deal, claiming they are practically family. Ryutaru, tired of the old man's slippery tactics, shuts off the screen mid-sentence. His loyal subordinate, Anaguma, stands ready to take action. Anaguma offers his team to track down the terrorists, but Ryutaru has someone else in mind. He orders Anaguma to stay by his side, choosing to delegate the cleanup to a different asset, Kitsune. Anaguma is skeptical, pointing out that Kitsune, though talented, lacks field experience. But Ryutaru sees this as a perfect trial. He wants to know if Kitsune is a true rival for the honor of standing at his side, or just a glorified babysitter for Kiryu. At 10 a.m., the focus shifts to the Rikudo Emperor Hotel. Ryutaru watches from afar, his phone in hand, as he prepares to put his chosen knight to the ultimate test. It's a gamble that could determine the future of his inner circle. Inside the first-floor lobby lounge, the atmosphere is sophisticated and calm, but a secret operation is already in motion beneath the surface of the morning coffee crowd. Kitsune, the feminine and lethal security leader, sips tea as he briefs his team. He apologizes for the early summons, but with the anniversary celebration tonight, there's no room for delay. He intends to keep the meeting brief and professional. The operation is clear: capture the dangerous individuals planning the attack. Kitsune looks at his team, emphasizing that this mission is a major step for all of them. But as he looks closer at his subordinates, he begins to realize he might have his work cut out for him. The team is unconventional, to say the least. Azumi Tsujidu, a blonde woman in high fashion, is more concerned with her dog, Vanilla-chan. Kazumadori, the weapons specialist, is already ordering high-end wine, and Inoyama is wearing a tank top in a 5-star hotel. They are anything but subtle. Kitsune loses his cool, slamming the table and shouting about their top-secret status while his team awkwardly tries to shush him. The reality sets in. They have zero intel on the terrorists, and the mission seems impossible before it even begins. To solve their information gap, Kitsune officially introduces Azumi Tsujidu. She's a veteran specialist from the Security Countermeasures headquarters, though she'd prefer the word beautiful over veteran. Her role is to spot the threats that normal security can't see. The men are skeptical. Kazumadori and Inoyama don't see what's so special about an old granny with a lapdog. Azumi, unfazed by their insults, asks Kazumadori if he wants to be the dog's next meal. Azumi adjusts her sunglasses and drops a claim that sounds like a joke. She's a magical girl, or more accurately, an esper. The team stares in disbelief, unable to buy the girl part of her self-description. She leans in, explaining that she has a pair of very special eyes. Her talent allows her to spot any killer nearby, seeing something on the backs of those who have taken a life before. The tension in the room suddenly spikes as she reveals her secret power. Azumi's vision is chilling. She doesn't just see people. She feels the presence of a murderer, visualized as being surrounded by the black, grasping hands of all their past victims. It's a haunting, supernatural sense of guilt. She laughs as she looks at Kazumadori and Inoyama, noting that despite their age, they have too much blood on their hands to even count. The men are shaken, realizing their own dark pasts are laid bare before her. Azumi turns her gaze to Kitsune, telling him his back is packed with victims like 1,000 armed cannon. The leader of the team is visibly disturbed, sweating as he realizes just how creepy her ability truly is. Kitsune confirms the truth of her power to the others. For 25 years, Azumi has been a secret weapon that detected numerous assassins before they could even strike. Her accuracy has made her a legend, even if she feels ancient because of it. As she looks around the hotel lounge, Azumi points out a terrifying reality. Many murderers are out there, hiding in plain sight, looking just like any other law-abiding citizen, even in a place this luxurious. She scans the lounge, pointing out monsters hidden behind polite masks. A gentle old man, a fancy lady. To her, they're just killers who've managed to stay ahead of the law. It's a terrifying truth. Death is often sitting at the next table, sipping tea. Azumi lays out the grim reality of Japan. Thousands vanish every year, their fates dismissed as simple suicides or left as mysteries. But as she looks through the crowd, she sees the dark truth behind the statistics. Killers walking unnoticed among the living, hidden until her eyes find them. Kitsune's team remains focused. At the lounge, Azumi Tsujidu, the blonde beauty with her small dog, continues to scan the crowd. Her eyes lock on 3 men who seem completely out of place in this luxury hotel. Her sharp intuition, or rather, her special ability, tells her something is very wrong. As the 3 suspicious men walk past, Azumi smirks. She notes that customers like that don't just appear every day. Kitsune and the rest of the team watch them closely, knowing that the peace of the morning is about to be shattered. To Azumi's special eyes, the men are shrouded in a nasty black haze, the lingering traces of their past victims. She realizes they aren't here for a coffee break. They're scouting the scene, a classic move before terrorists make their strike. Vanilla-chan, her dog, growls in agreement, sensing the danger. The rest of the team isn't behind. Kazumadori, the weapons specialist, and Inoyama, the muscular powerhouse, can practically smell the gunpowder on these ants. Kazumadori discreetly readies his own weapon, keeping a sharp eye on their targets as they move through the hotel. Inoyama suggests bringing in Izuna, the nurse bodyguard, just in case they need to extract information from these guys alive. He believes she's their best bet for a clean capture, but Kitsune has other plans for her. Kitsune firmly rejects the idea, explaining that he assigned Izuna specifically to protect Rikudo Kiryu today. In his view, a wild one like Nizuna is far better suited to handle a spoiled brat like Kiryu than some groveling lackey would be. He orders the team to keep a low profile and follow the suspects to their hideout. Kitsune leaps into action, his long hair flying as he commands the team to move out. While Kazumadori and Inoyama follow, they can't help but joke about Kitsune being the one standing out the most in the lobby. Despite the bickering, the hunt is officially on. Meanwhile, at the Rikudo Medical University Hospital, Nizuna is having a breakdown of her own. She's horrified that Rikudo Kiryu has no interest in attending his brother's anniversary party. To her, this isn't just a duty, it was her chance to see someone special. Nizuna's excitement was all for Yuta Kisarazu, the collarbone prince she's a huge fan of. She begs Kiryu to go, desperate to catch a glimpse of her idol. But Kiryu, bored and cynical, couldn't care less about his brother's new position or the party. Kiryo's patience snaps. He pulls a gun from his jacket, aiming it directly at Nozuna. His cold eyes challenge her, asking if she truly understands who she's talking to. The spoiled brat isn't just playing games, he's dangerous. In a flash, instinct takes over. Nozuna reflexively kicks the gun out of Kiryo's hand with such force that she accidentally strikes him in the face. The weapon clatters to the floor as Kiryo cries out in pain and shock. Nozuna immediately panics, apologizing profusely for her reflex. She admits her body just moves on its own whenever she sees a gun. Kiryo, clutching his face, can't believe his bodyguard actually hit him. It's a moment of pure, unintentional humiliation for the young heir. But the apology doesn't last long. Nozuna's face turns deadly serious as she warns Kiryo never to point a gun at her again, or she'll snap his wrist. Kiryo is livid, his ego bruised as much as his face. He's never had anyone speak to him with such raw authority. Kiryo seethes with rage, viewing her defiance as treason against the entire conglomerate. He can't wrap his head around an underling acting with such audacity, but Nozuna isn't backing down. She stands over him, her gaze cold and unwavering. Nozuna drops the act, reminding Kiryo that she's an elite special ops operative with years of training. In her eyes, she's a far more valuable asset to the conglomerate than a spoiled brat like him. Kiryo is left speechless, his fury simmering beneath a mask of stunned silence. Kiryo is left alone with his thoughts, his face contorted in a mix of rage and frustration. The power dynamic has shifted, and he's forced to realize that the wild nurse he was assigned is more dangerous than he ever imagined. The scene shifts away from the hospital. The three suspicious men from the hotel lounge have arrived at their destination, Hotel Matahari, a love hotel that serves as the perfect low-key hideout for their operation. They enter the building, unaware that the special ops team is already closing in. The Love Hotel's inconspicuous nature is exactly why they chose it, but won't be enough to hide them from Azumi's special eyes. Kitsune, Azumi, and Inoyama observe from a distance. Kazumidori is baffled. He can't believe a group of dudes would check into a love hotel together. The absurdity of the situation is enough to make even these hardened professionals sweat. Kitsune deduces that the hotel manager must be in on it, offering them a safe house. He knows that if they rush in blindly, the suspects will call for backup, and they'll lose their targets for sure. They need a plan to blend in as guests first. The tension is high as Kitsune decides he must go in and check things out personally. Azumi and Kazumidori look on, knowing that as the leader, the burden of this dangerous infiltration falls on his shoulders. One wrong move, and the whole operation could go up in flames. Kitsune wishes Nozuna were here to help, but he's forced to make do with what he has. He looks at the info screen showing the available rooms, preparing his next move as the time for the attack draws closer. Inside the room, the suspicious men are preparing. A massive arsenal of weapons is laid out on the bed: revolvers, shotguns, and sniper rifles. The sound of weapons being readied fills the room as they prepare for the hit on the conglomerate's party. Inside the Love Hotel room, the hitmen, revealed to be part of the Chinese mafia, meticulously check their gear, fully confident in the weapons provided by Captain Krishna. Despite their preparation, one of them can't shake a lingering sense of unease, feeling as if someone has been watching them ever since they entered the hallway. The mood remains light as they discuss a bizarre rumor that the hit on the party was actually commissioned by the host himself, Rikudo Ruru. They laugh it off as an absurdity, mocking the idea of someone sabotaging their own celebration. However, their laughter is about to be cut short by an unexpected visitor at the door. A sudden doorbell interrupts the assassin's preparation at the Love Hotel. Suspicious of the unexpected visitor, one of them cautiously moves toward the door to check the peephole. He wonders if it's someone from the other squad, but something feels off. Through the distorted lens of the peephole, a feminine-looking person with long hair and a wide, friendly smile appears. It's Kitsune, flawlessly disguised and holding a small cosmetic pouch, acting the part of a cheerful visitor. Kitsune, calling himself Tsuneko, acts as a VIP delivery from an escort service. Behind him, Azumi cowers and adds to the performance, making it look like a nervous delivery gone wrong. The assassins are caught off guard by the crazy gorgeous ladyboy at their door. The hitmen are annoyed, convinced it's a mistake, and they have no business with hookers. To get rid of the nuisance, one assassin decides to just slide some money under the door and tell her to keep the change and leave. Azumi keeps up the act, warning that her scary boss won't be happy. As the money slides out, the playful act vanishes. Kitsune draws a katana in a blur of movement. His expression turns deadly as he declares that no one is leaving until their playtime is over. The trap has been sprung. A sickening thud echoes through the room as Kitsune's blade finds its mark. A hand is severed in an instant, and blood sprays across the floor. The assassins are left in a state of frozen terror as they realize the delivery girl is a cold-blooded killer. Kitsune doesn't stop. With a lethal isshichige, he thrusts his sword through another assassin's throat. The speed of the attack is overwhelming, leaving the gunmen with no time to raise their weapons. He is a whirlwind of steel and blood. The slaughter is absolute. Kitsune moves with demonic precision, severing heads and limbs with ease. In seconds, the room is filled with the dead and dying. Kitsune stands amidst the carnage, his disguise still intact, but his intent now clear. The room falls silent as Kitsune's team moves in. Azumi sighs at the lack of subtlety, criticizing Kitsune for making such a mess. She steps over the bodies, while the last surviving assassin trembles on the floor, clutching his severed limb. Azumi clicks her gun into place, ready to finish the job. Azumi points her pistol directly at the survivor's face. With a cold, mocking smile, she tells him to be a good boy and tell Big Sis everything he knows. The time for games is over. Now comes the interrogation. Back at the hospital, the mood is somber. Mizuna tries to apologize to Rikudo Kiryu for her earlier violence, admitting she went too far. But Kiryu remains distant, focused on his handheld game, his gun lying abandoned on the bed between them. Their conversation highlights the deep loneliness of Kiryu's life. Mizuna asks if he ever has friends over, but Kiryu just tells her to forget it. He urges her to just go to the party and let him figure things out with Kitsune on his own. Kiryu reflects on his isolated upbringing. He's never been to school, raised in hospital rooms his entire life. To the world, he's just the son of the king of the ants. Video games are his only escape, the only place where no one knows who he truly is, his only sense of freedom. The prince's hollow freedom is about to be shattered. He mutters about how he wouldn't care if someone took him far away. A sudden noise from the hallway catches their attention. Mizuna jokes that maybe his friends have finally arrived. The door bursts open with a loud laugh. It's Aguri Shiro, and he's brought a whole squad of friends. He stands triumphantly in the doorway, dragging a defeated guard as his gift to the prince. The room is suddenly packed with Aguri's gang. Kiryu's face contorts in sheer terror. The one man he truly fears has appeared in his sanctuary. He screams Aguri Shiro's name, his heart pounding as the reality of the situation sinks in. The predator has found its prey. Mizuna is stunned by the bizarre group Aguri has assembled, a girl, a young kid, and others. She notes Kiryu's surprising popularity with a sarcastic smirk, while the rest of Aguri's gang looks on with various expressions of amusement and cold calculation. The scene briefly shifts to the Sankai residence. Young noble daughter Sankai Hazuki twirls in a cute, ruffled dress, excited to show it off at tonight's party. She thinks it's way too cute, unaware of the violence unfolding elsewhere. Her brother, Sankai Hashinosuke, the young heir, watches her with a mixture of amusement and exasperation. He tells her she never changes and that Lord Ryutaru will probably laugh at her childish outfit. He continues to look through a family album, reflecting on their status. Hazuki huffs, defending Ryutaru as a true gentleman. Hashinosuke ignores her, focused on an old picture of their grandfather and Lord Kisaburo. The weight of their family legacy is evident in his gaze as he studies the album of the Sankai family. Hashinosuke speaks of the Sankai conglomerate and its longtime rivalry with the Rikudo family. He's determined to inherit his father's position and, alongside Ryuru, take the helm and shape the future of the nation. To him, this competition is what developed the country. He looks fondly at a childhood photo of himself and Ryuru on a boat. To Hashinosuke, they aren't just rivals. Their friendship is genuine. He expresses a sincere desire to see his old friend at the party tonight. Back at 11:20 a.m., at the Rikudo Medical University Hospital, the atmosphere is far from friendly. The International Infectious Disease Research Lab has been breached. A hand grips a pistol tightly as someone yells for others to stay back. The raid is in full swing. Back at the hospital, the standoff reaches a fever pitch. Rikudo Kiryu, fueled by a volatile mix of fear and hatred, aims his gun straight at Aguri Shiro's face, vowing to end the man who has turned his world upside down. Nazuna can only watch in horror, paralyzed by the lethal tension. Instead of backing away, Aguri leans into the danger, pressing his forehead directly against the cold steel of the barrel. With a terrifyingly calm smile, he tells Kiryu that he doesn't underestimate him for a second. In fact, he sees a darkness inside the sickly prince that the rest of the world hasn't even begun to realize. Rikudo Kiryu trembles, his finger hovering over the trigger. He's cornered, desperate, but Aguri Shiro only smiles wider, mocking the spirit of the Rikudo bloodline. In the background, Nazuna and the others watch in terror as Aguri continues his suicidal game of chicken. Aguri gestures toward the hallway, where an entire army of elite bodyguards lies unconscious on the floor. He calls Kiryu a coward, pointing out the irony of a man clutching a loaded gun while his massive security force was dismantled in minutes. The pride of the Rikudo family is laid bare and broken. In a blur of motion, Aguri snatches the pistol right out of Kiryu's hands. He checks the chamber with a satisfying CHK, mocking the sickly prince for hiding behind a toy. Instead of sitting alone in a sterile room, Aguri invites Kiryu to come out and play in the real world. Suddenly, bang! Aguri pulls the trigger, and a bullet grazes the air, shattering the silence and the wall behind them. Everyone is frozen in shock. Aguri's eyes are wide and wild, proving that he's just as crazy as the rumors say. He really didn't care if the gun was loaded or not. Kiryu is livid, screaming that the bullet almost blew his head off. Aguri just laughs it off, pinning the prince to the bed with overwhelming physical strength. Nazuna can only watch from the sidelines, realizing that these people aren't just criminals. They're a different breed of monster entirely. The physical bullying continues until Nico Chukichi steps in, acting as the calm voice of reason. He tells Aguri that it's not proper for brothers to bicker like this. Kiryu is disgusted by the comparison, especially when Aguri finds out they're the same age and immediately declares himself the big bro. Aguri decides to seal their new bond with a forced hug, completely ignoring Kiryu's screams of STOOP. The prince, who has lived his life being feared and respected, is now being treated like a petulant younger sibling. It's a humiliation worse than any physical injury. Aguri learns that Kiryu was born in May while he was born in August, making Kiryu the technical big bro by age, but Aguri has no intention of letting that change the power dynamic. He decides to borrow his new big brother for a while, mockingly telling the nurse to patch up the guards they left in the hallway. With Kiryu slung over his shoulder like a sack of potatoes, Aguri prepares to leave. The prince kicks and screams, but it's useless. Nazuna stands frozen, watching her charge being kidnapped right in front of her eyes by this whirlwind of chaos. Aguri's team begins their exit, with Nico Chukichi offering a polite apology for the commotion. Nazuna is left in the quiet wake of the raid, her mind racing. There's no way she can report to Master Kitsune that she let Lord Kiryu be taken under her watch. Her pride as an elite bodyguard won't allow it. Nazuna's gaze sharpens as she looks at the back of Nico Chukichi. She knows he's the one who taught Master Kitsune, making him a legendary figure. But she also knows she can't let them walk away. Even if the world is flipped upside down, She has to fight. She wonders if it's truly impossible to win. She's never fought Shukichi before, and honestly, he just looks like a frail old man in a suit. He's completely unconvinced that she's a threat, still believing she's just a regular nurse. This is her only chance, the element of surprise. With a sharp sisti, Mizuna launches her attack. She's no ordinary nurse. She's an acrobat of death. She moves with a grace that contradicts her outfit, her body coiled like a spring as she prepares to strike the unsuspecting old man. She performs a spectacular backflip, her heels slicing through the air with lethal intent. It's a move meant to catch any opponent off guard, blending her past as a circus performer with her training as a special ops elite. The room becomes a stage for her deadly display. Thwack! Mizuna's kick connects, or so she thinks. She's aiming for a direct hit on Shukichi's head, putting all her strength into the blow. The sheer power of her strike should have been enough to end the fight before it even started. But Shukichi is gone. He dodges the strike with a speed that defies his age, appearing almost instantly beside her. Mizuna skids across the floor, her eyes wide as she realizes the frail old man is anything but. She's not done yet, but the gap in their skills is already starting to show. Shukichi stands perfectly calm, holding a shoe she lost during the flurry. He lectures her with the patience of a teacher, explaining that unorthodox attacks can be effective, but aiming near the ear means the opponent will always hear it coming. It's a lesson Mizuna should have learned from Kitsune long ago. Furious, Mizuna launches another strike, her legs swinging in a wide arc. Shukichi just watches with a cold, analytical gaze, his glasses reflecting her desperate movements. He's not even breaking a sweat, treating her elite combat training like a child's tantrum. Mizuna realizes her movements are too wide, but it's too late to adjust. She prepares to strike as he lands, her hand reaching out for a final, desperate gambit. She's betting everything on this one moment, hoping to catch the master in a lapse of judgment. SNNKT, Mizuna reveals her secret weapon. Her hand doesn't strike. Instead, it explodes into a mass of wires and metal. It's a prosthetic taser arm, a high-tech weapon made specifically for subduing powerful targets. The team watches in shock as the nurse shows her true, mechanical nature. The prosthetic arm clamps down on Shukichi's leg. The wires wrap around him like a mechanical trap, and the smell of ozone fills the room. Mizuna's face is a mask of determination, believing she finally has the upper hand. "Time for your nap, Grandpa," she declares. Zap! Thousands of volts of electricity surge through the wires. The discharge is powerful enough to knock out a bear in an instant. Shukichi is caught in the middle of the lethal circuit, his body illuminated by the brilliant white arc of the taser. It looks like the end for the old master. Mizuna pants, convinced she's done it. She looks at the smoldering pile where Shukichi stood, waiting for him to collapse. But as the smoke clears, she sees something impossible. A boot lies on the floor, sparking and burnt, but Shukichi is nowhere to be found in the heap. Shukichi stands tall, unscathed and unimpressed. He had slipped out of his boot before the taser wires could even tighten, outsmarting her high-tech prosthetic with nothing more than raw, veteran instinct. As he gazes at her mechanical arm, his eyes soften with a spark of recognition, almost as if he's seen this particular masterpiece of engineering before. He gathers the sparking wires, casually explaining the failsafe that prevented a second discharge. But it isn't the weapon that truly interests him, it's the person wielding it. Standing over the defeated nurse, Shukichi holds her broken weapon like a forgotten relic of the past, the gears of his memory finally beginning to turn. As Shukichi subdues Mizuna, he reveals a long-forgotten truth. Years ago, there was a circus troupe that the late Lord Kisaburu was deeply fond of. Among them was a single, extraordinary acrobat girl who defied gravity with every leap, a young Mizuna, performing for the elite of the Rikudo Empire. But tragedy struck. A devastating injury led to the loss of her right arm, ending her career as a performer. Seeing her tragic fate, Lord Kisaburu chose to shelter her under the conglomerate's wing, providing her with a prosthetic taser arm. The goal was to give her a new purpose without forcing her into a life of mindless killing. Chukichi finally remembers her name, Nazuna. Nazuna is overwhelmed with emotion, her eyes welling up with tears. It frustrates her to admit it, but she feels honored. She never imagined that Master Chukichi, the man she just tried to kill, actually cared about someone like her after all these years. The master-student bond is still there, beneath the mechanical wires and the violence. The scene shifts back to the Hotel Matahari at 11:40 a.m. The calm morning is about to get very loud as Kitsune's team begins their interrogation of the staff. The manager tries to play dumb, but he's dealing with professionals who have no patience for lies. Inoyama, the muscular powerhouse of the group, has the hotel manager in a brutal headlock. He demands to know which room the terrorists are hiding in, revealing that the kid has already ratted him out. Azumi stands by, holding Vanilla-chan, while Kitsune watches the interrogation with a cold, focused gaze. The manager is terrified as Inoyama tightens his grip. He claims he can crush a bowling ball into dust with just a headlock, and the manager's skull certainly isn't any tougher. Gasping for air, the manager finally breaks and reveals the room number, 204. Kitsune calls bullshit. He heard the hesitation in the manager's voice and knows he's still lying to save his skin. With a sudden burst of violence, the interrogation takes a turn for the worse. Blood sprays as the manager's reluctance to give up the real location leads to his brutal end. Azumi points out the real target on the monitors. Room 209 is the only occupied room in that wing. Kitsune immediately orders Kazumidori to move in. The team is finally zeroing in on the terrorist cell, their efficiency a sharp contrast to the manager's failed deception. Inside room 209, the terrorists are completely oblivious to the threat outside. They're partying with a local mistress, with their leader, a large, bald man, taking full advantage of his position. They think they're safe behind the reinforced doors of a love hotel, but they couldn't be more wrong. The leader snaps at his underlings, telling the small fries to get lost while he has his fun. He's trying to keep a brave face, but beneath the bravado, he's as nervous as the rest of them. The tension of the upcoming party-wrecking gig is started to weigh on everyone in the room. He admits to himself that he's scared out of his damn mind. He thinks he needs a woman just to keep his head straight for the job. Suddenly, bang! The lights explode as a lamp is shattered by a perfectly placed shot. Darkness swallows the room, and the screaming begins. Panic erupts in the dark. The hitmen scramble for their weapons, but they can't see a thing. They're blind and helpless as the sound of suppressed gunfire systematically picks them off one by one. The predator has finally entered the den. Kazumidori moves like a ghost through the shadows. Using high-tech night vision goggles, he sees his targets with perfect clarity while they only see muzzle flashes. Blood sprays the walls as he executes the terrorists with cold, surgical precision. The room is filled with the groans of the dying and the frantic cries of the mistress. Kazumidori stands alone in the middle of the carnage, his goggles glowing with an eerie light. He's the ultimate bad boy, a weapons specialist who finds beauty in the absolute darkness of a love hotel room. To him, this isn't just a mission, it's a performance. The mistress cringes on the bed, begging for her life as Kazumidori walks past the pile of bodies. He notes that only a love hotel or a morgue would be this dark, and right now, this room is both. He mocks the full moon display from the woman, completely unfazed by her terror. Kazumidori takes off his goggles, his eyes cold and unimpressed. He calls the terrorists a bunch of amateurs for not even having night vision ready. He's the kind of man who expects perfection from his prey, and these hitmen were nothing but disappointments. He checks the bodies, confirming that 9 terrorists were spread across 2 rooms. He's confident they got them all. He tells the surviving mistress there's no need to be scared, claiming he's never killed a woman before. But the interrogation isn't over. He still needs intel. Kazumidori asks Miss Sidepiece for any interesting secrets, offering to pay well for good intel. Desperate to live, she spills everything. She mentions that the terrorists were going to use the chaos to assassinate someone really important, and that their boss gave them a pass to get into the party. He finds the forged invitation in a disguise bag. It's for a man named Manda Shinjinsai, the 13th Emoto of the Uramank Tea School. Kazumadori notes that it's a pretty damn good forgery, enough to get anyone past the initial security checkpoints at the anniversary party. Kazumadori assumes the target is Rikudo's new head, Ryutaru, but the woman shakes her head, dropping a bombshell. Ryutaru wasn't the target. He was the client who hired the hit on someone else. The revelation hangs in the air, heavy and poisonous. Riku, she begins to repeat. Bang! Kazumadori fires without hesitation. He breaks his earlier promise and kills the woman, knowing he just heard something he really wasn't supposed to. He can't allow any witness to the truth that his own employer is the one behind the terrorist threat. Blood sprays across her face as she collapses. Kazumadori walks away, his face unreadable. He tells himself he's got a bird's memory and will forget what he heard in just 3 steps. 1, 2, 3, and it's gone. He chooses the safety of ignorance over the deadly weight of the truth. He is a soldier, after all, not a rebel. In a luxurious dressing room, Rikudo is trying on his white suit for the anniversary party. He's the image of perfect composure, surrounded by staff catering to his every need. His phone rings, it's Kitsune. He answers with his usual cold, patronizing tone. Ryutaru dismissively assumes Kitsune has failed the hunt. He tells him to stop chasing ghosts and just focus on guarding the party venue, already writing the team off as useless. But Kitsune is about to drop a bombshell on his arrogant master. With a triumphant shout, Kitsune reports their absolute victory. 9 terrorists and 1 accomplice have been successfully dealt with. Standing proudly with his team outside the hotel, he expects praise, oblivious to the fact that his total cleanup has left them with more questions than answers. Kitsune's celebratory mood quickly fades into a cold sweat. He has to admit the downside of their success. They didn't exactly capture the terrorists for questioning. In their brutal efficiency, they kind of killed everyone. Ryutaru's eye twitches on the other end of the line, realize they still have no idea what the syndicate's full plan actually is. Ryutaru hangs up with a disdainful huff. He calls Kitsune a truly useless man, an idiot who works hard at all the wrong moments. But as he adjusts his white suit in the mirror, a dark smile crosses his face. To him, Kitsune is still adorable in his incompetence, a loyal pet in a den of wolves. While Ryutaru prepares for his grand evening, a white truck speeds away from the hospital. Shukichi is behind the wheel, with Nizuna tied up in the passenger seat. Kiryo's world is falling apart as he realizes the sheer insanity of Aguri's plan to impersonate him and sneak into the Rikudo conglomerate's party tonight. Inside the back of the van, the atmosphere is electric. Kiryo screams that Aguri is an idiot who will get murdered in seconds. But Aguri just leans back, completely relaxed alongside Sakamizu and young Maharu. He mocks Kiryo's fear, challenging the smart guy to come up with a better plan if he's so worried about his own safety. Aguri puts a hand on Kiryo's lap, leaning in close. He reminds the sickly prince that he's supposed to be a gaming prodigy. He frames the entire assassination attempt as just another level to clear, asking Kiryo how he would capture the king's peace if this were all just a game. The question catches Kiryo off guard, striking at the one thing he truly understands. Aguri's smile is predatory and infectious. He tells Kiryo that tonight is his time to shine as the game master. While Kiryo plays the game from the shadows, Aguri will be his piece on the board, moving exactly how the prince directs. It's an exciting, deadly gamble, and as the truck disappears into the city, the real game is only just beginning.